Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Thanks so much for joining us. Please be seated. And while you've been waiting, I trust you've taken a moment to read our acknowledgement to our First Nations friends and neighbors. So I'd like to call the meeting to order, and I'll ask for a motion to approve the agenda. Councillor Gambioli.
Thank you. I'll recommend that the October 28th, 2024 regular council meeting agenda be approved as circulated.
Thank you. Councillor Lambert. Thank you. Any discussion? Question? All in favor? Contrary? Carried. Thank you. We're honored this evening to have members of the Royal Canadian Legion with us. The president of the West Vancouver Branch 60, Ron Beasley, the deputy zone commander, Stephen Cochran, and the Reverend Dal McCrindle, I understand, are with us. And we thank you, gentlemen, for joining us. Please come forward.
They shall grow not old as we that are left grow old. Age shall not weary them, nor the years condemn. At the going down of the sun and in the morning, we will remember them. We will remember them.
Gentlemen, thank you very much for joining us and for those words. Councillor Thompson. Oh, sorry, Councillor Watt.
Yeah, I'd like to recommend that the presentation from the Royal Canadian Legion, West Vancouver Branch 60, be received for information with thanks.
Thank you, Councillor Thompson. Thank you. Again, thank you very much, gentlemen. I'll call the question. All in favor? Contrary, the motion is carried. And now we welcome a delegation from our British Columbia SPCA. Who is here? Yes, we did. Thank you for joining us this evening.
Thank you so much. Hello, is this working? Oh. Thank you very much, Mayor and Council, for having us here this evening. My name is Corey Bonnick, and I'm from the BCSPCA. I work out of our provincial office, and I handle all of our municipal animal services contracts across the province.
And I am Sarah Henderson, and I'm the manager of the West Vancouver BCSPCA Community Animal Shelter.
Thank you.
Yeah,
and we're here today just to give a bit of an update. Since we are the animal sheltering services provider for the District of West Vancouver, we thought we'd come and talk a little bit about what we've been doing over the past year. This is a 2023 contract update, so it's already getting a little bit outdated, but we're also happy to answer any questions about the activities that we've been up to thus far in 2024. So the BCSPCA was established in 1895. We are a registered charity. We don't receive any ongoing provincial or federal funding unless it's for a special project. You may have heard we did receive some funding for particular locations for renovating some of our buildings. But otherwise, the only other government funding we receive are through contracts such as the one that we have with the district. This is our mission and vision. We are in the process of updating our strategic plan to look forward to the next 50 years. As you can imagine, a lot of things have changed since COVID, and there's been a lot of advances in terms of how animal sheltering operates. This is due to some amazing work from other organizations and ourselves across North America, as well as RSPCAs all across the world. So our contract, as you know, we do operate out of the district's building right over by Ambleside. We've been the shelter provider for a very long time with the district, decades and decades. I'm not even sure if anyone at our organization knows when that first started, but for a long time. So our contract is currently month to month at the moment. It expired in May of 2022. So we have been speaking with staff about renewing the contract, but in the meantime, it's business as usual. We're still selling dog licenses, and we're still accepting stray animals from both the animal control officers and the public that are coming in from the district.
So over 2023, at the West Vancouver Community Animal Centre, we took in 37 dogs from the District of West Van, 2 cats, and 8 others. We do see often a lot of chickens coming through our care as well. And during that time, we do hold the animal for 7 days under local bylaw. We will seek necessary veterinary care when required with the approval of the district. And then we collect fees for the district from the owner prior to the animal's return. And if an animal is not claimed within 7 days, on day 8, the animal is transferred from the district to the care of the BCSPCA. And all adoptable animals will be advertised on our website and in our shelter. And potential adopters, can visit the shelter between 12 and 3 o'clock from Tuesday to Sundays. So other programs and services that we offer within the BCSPCA, we have started to offer a community pet food bank. So anyone who is in need of food can come to our facility and ask for services. We are also offering a compassionate boarding program where anyone who is facing lack of housing or requires temporary boarding if they are fleeing domestic violence, they can utilize our services for those things as well. We also have the animal protection investigations, where we do hold animals under protective custody while they are awaiting their court cases. We also have a humane education program, and we have an animal helpline where anyone can report cruelty within the North Shore. And if they require our services for boarding, they can request boarding through that number as well.
Yes, and for the emergency response and support, we are becoming more and more active every year with the provincial emergency response. And we've been trying to really become aware of what might be going on in the Sea to Sky corridor on the North Shore. You know, there's a lot of forested areas. Forest fires are unfortunately a possibility, and flooding, as we saw a couple weeks ago, unfortunately as well. So that is a very active donor-funded program as well. As if people are unable to care for their pets temporarily, we can take them in and care for them on their behalf until they're able to take them back home.
So our team in West Vancouver is primarily run by volunteers. We are very fortunate to have a very supportive community on the North Shore. We have 258 volunteers as of today. There's myself, an assistant, and then there are 10 staff. So we really do depend on the community to help us do all of the work that we do.
And that's it for our presentation, short and sweet, so that we have time for any questions. This is my contact information. If anyone, including members of the public, have questions, they can contact us. But otherwise, we'd be happy to take any questions that Mayor and Council might have.
Thank you. I think there will be some questions. Thank you, Councillor Cassidy.
Yes, thank you very much for your presentation. It is recommended that the delegation from the British Columbia Society of the Prevention of Cruelty to Animals, BCSPCA, regarding update on 2023 BCSPCA contract services be received for information with thanks.
Thank you. Second. Is there discussion from members of council? I thought there might be a few questions. Councillor Gambioli?
I just wanted to say thank you. I've adopted all of my cats from your location for about the last 40 years. So thank you very much. And 258 volunteers, that's really, really impressive. How does someone become a volunteer with you?
We open up our volunteer opportunities quarterly. They can apply on our website, and then we do have some training. I believe we are opening up our opportunities again in December.
And so, like, if my 15-year-old daughter wanted to volunteer, or if mom was going to suggest it to her, what opportunities would there be for her to volunteer? What would she do?
Yeah, so with our location, you do have to be 16 in order to volunteer in shelter.
Oh.
However, we do have a work experience program through most of the local high schools. If they want to get their work experience hours, they can apply through their school mentor, and they can have placement through us if they're under 16.
Oh, okay, but it's sort of dog walking and grooming, hanging out. What do they do?
Typically, for anyone under 19, they would work primarily with our small animals and our cats. You do have to be 19 or older to walk our dogs due to some of their behavioral challenges.
Okay. All right, great. Thank you.
Thanks very much. Councillor Cassidy?
So you referenced these pets that you might be able to take in for whatever reason, people can't take care of them temporarily. How long is that pet allowed to stay with your facility?
That's a great question. It varies on depending on the reason that the owner is unable to take care of them. So we have our standard emergency boarding is about 2 weeks. So that would be for individuals who may have to go into the hospital for a temporary period of time and things like that. It's not, well, I will add, sorry, that through our agreement with the District of West Vancouver, we do offer boarding to the public. But this program that we're talking about is more of a BCSPCA-wide program. So that would be folks who are experiencing, some sort of upset in their lives that they have to leave their animals in our care. We do have a newer program, as Sarah mentioned, for those who are fleeing domestic violence, and that program can be much longer that they're in our care. So the fosters for those programs would have to undergo criminal record checks. I think the animal could be in foster for up to a year, something like that.
I think it's up to 6 months.
6 months? Okay, thank you. And for the emergency boarding from an evacuation, it's definitely more than 2 weeks because, as we saw with the Abbotsford floods, for example, or some of the fires in the interior, it could take, a couple months maybe for people to be able to go back home. So that one, I don't think there's a definitive end time. It's more, working with the individuals to see if they can find some sort of temporary pet-friendly housing, pet-friendly hotels, or even supplying them with pet food, pet supplies, so that they can keep their pet with them while they're unhoused.
And you do this free of charge?
Yep, it's all donor
All
funded.
right. So how long is a dog, other than the current circumstances you just described, to be held or kept at your facility? What is the length of time?
If the animal comes in as a stray through the district, it's 7 days. We're legally obligated. And then if the animal has passed that time, we try to move it through its pathway as quickly as possible. So I think organization-wide, the average length of stay is around 14 days, something like
And
that.
so what would you do with them after these 7 days or 14 days?
So those are the animals that would be put up for adoption generally. If the animal is, there's some sort of major health issue in discussion with a veterinarian, that animal may not be considered adoptable, and then we'd look at different options there. A fair number of staff do end up taking some animals home, to retirement, but otherwise most of them do go up for adoption.
Okay. So I am incorrect in that I've heard that you are, you are euthanize the dogs, shall we say?
We don't euthanize due to time spent in the center, no. But if they do have a severe medical or behavioral problem, then we do have a euthanasia policy for those cases.
So is there a time period? 7
No.
days, 10 days? No?
No, as long as they're past the stray hold and they belong to the BCSPCA. We list all of our euthanasia rates annually on our website so that if anyone is interested, they can go have a look. It's just under the About Us section of the website. And we also list kind of the live release rate, shall we say, return to owner, so that everyone can see exactly where the animals are going across the province. We also have the the guidelines for what we call the animals pathway listed publicly on our website as well. We're part of a group of shelters that follow the Asilomar Accord. So that's from some centers in the States. And they had veterinarians look at what would the outcome be for different animals based on their health or behavior situation. So it's never anything that, for example, Sarah would just make a decision. It would be in partnership with people at our provincial office based on veterinarian recommendations with our local vets and so on and so forth. So it's a decision that we don't take lightly. And like I said, it's never due to space or length of stay. In fact, anyone could go on our website right now. You'll probably see lots of animals that have been with us for easily over a year, 18 months,
Okay.
particularly
Thank you.
rabbits. Yeah, so if anyone needs a rabbit,
Thank
please
you.
come by and see.
Thanks very much. Councillor Watt.
Yeah, thank you for your presentation. So is there an oversight body that sort of monitors or determines when it comes to, pets that have to be euthanized?
In terms of animals under our care, that would be
Yeah.
have to be. Unfortunately, I don't believe that there is. We are part of many groups that are with the Canadian Shelter Veterinarians Association and other groups such as that. So that would cover kind of what our, I guess I would say, our in-house protocols look like. And like I said, the fact that we publish all those statistics on our website, it's keeping ourselves accountable for those reasons. And then we are also held accountable in other ways by being part of, different charity organizations that have standards for those members too when it comes to maybe like use of donor funds and so on and so forth. So, and there's also Paws for Hope, which is a BC specific animal rescue organization too that has its own member standards as well. So, and again, I'd be happy to, if anyone has any questions or if they see something on the website with those statistics that they're unsure about, absolutely please reach out to me because I'd be happy to go through it with those folks. Yeah.
Thank you very much. Councillor Thompson.
Thank you. We heard over COVID, coming out of COVID, that the shelters got overloaded with pets that were adopted. Have you evened out for that now? Is it more manageable in the pets that you're receiving?
I have a few opinions on that, but I might let you speak to it because
Sure.
you're on the ground.
Yeah, I will say that we are still receiving a pretty high volume of calls for surrender. But I would say a lot of the calls that we're receiving is more from unstable housing and lack of pet-friendly housing. It has pivoted away from the pandemic puppy and more that there are very limited resources for people who have pets in the city of Vancouver and on the North Shore.
And I believe you said you had 37 dogs right now?
37 dogs was the total volume of dogs we
Through
received from the
2000.
District of West Vancouver. Right now in shelter we have about 10 and we do stay around 10 at any given time. Speaking more to sort of the euthanasia question too, we do have a program called Drives for Lives, which is a program that runs provincially and it transfers animals all around the province that maybe aren't getting adopted in certain regions. So we use that program in a way to prevent having to euthanize any animals for space. So if I have a dog in my facility that has been there for 2 or 3 weeks and is not getting any interest, I'll put them on a transfer and they'll go to Vancouver or Burnaby so that they can have a newer community look at them. And they typically get adopted within 48 hours.
Yeah, that's great. I was actually kind of curious about what your capacity was. And you say 10 dogs is
Our capacity is 18.
Okay.
We typically have around 10, and we have our capacity for cats is about 29. We usually stick around 12 to 15 cats. Cats tend to get adopted much quicker. They're usually gone within 24 to 72 hours. Dogs, especially large breed dogs, tend to spend a bit more time. I would say they're usually in my care between 7 and 11 days.
Okay. And, I actually became aware of your fostering program through our MP, Patrick Weiler, who fostered a couple cats and then decided they liked them, so they kept them.
Oh, great.
So is that program helping your capacity? Would people just take them on temporarily?
Definitely.
What is the commitment for a temporary foster?
For fostering, we do ask for a minimum of 6 months commitment before adopting. But I mean, if someone falls in love with an animal, we're not going to deny them. But we do ask, especially for more complicated cases, that people apply to become fosters with the intention of fostering and not with the intention of adopting, just so that we can use them as long-term resources.
That's great. Thank you.
And
Thanks very much. Sorry.
just to add to the note about fostering as well, if anyone is interested in helping the organization, but they're not sure if they can commit to coming into the center each week, that is a really, really big help. And particularly for animals that are very fearful being in the center, or again, may have some, behavioral issues that could be alleviated by being in a home rather than being in a shelter space, a foster can make a huge difference. So, and all of the supplies are provided for the animals' care as well. There's no vet bills to pay, food's all included. So, and it can be really rewarding to see them move on to their new home afterwards.
Yeah, thank you.
Thanks very much. Any further discussion? I'll call the question. All in favor? Contrary carried. Thank you. We'll move to item number 5, a report on a proposed road closure. Mr. Wong, would you lead us through that, please?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Thank you, Mr. Mayor, and good evening, everyone. Just to give you a highlight of what's changed from the first, second, and third reading of the road closure bylaw, we have received an amendment to add a statutory right-of-way to the property, which allows for a new trail to be installed in replacing the current trail that exists today there. In addition to that, the potential buyers have indicated that they will build a good portion of the trail at no cost to the district. The district is responsible for the final portion that runs to the foreshore. But in addition to that, they are providing the district a license to allow the current pathway to remain open until such time it's unsafe to do so. So it obviously keeps it open as long as possible. In addition to that, we are working with the potential builder and purchaser. To try and build the new trail as quickly as possible, even before the new dwelling is completed. So with that, I'll answer any questions you may have.
Thank you, Mr. Wong. Any questions from members of council? And I understand through our corporate officers, we have some people who wish to address council on this issue this evening.
Yeah, we have about 16 names on the list so far.
Thank you. Well, let's invite those people.
Sure. The first name is Michael Smith, followed by Sydney Sharp.
Thank you. Our former mayor, Mr. Smith, thanks for joining us this evening.
Can I just clarify the amended resolution that we'd be looking at today?
Certainly. I think you could post that up on the screens.
Yes, please.
Sorry, I did ask if any member of council wanted questions, but let's hear from the public and then we can have questions from council.
So I just want to quickly go over the resolution itself. There are obviously some concerns about the notice of disposition. So what we've done to modify the resolution is to allow the notice of disposition to happen for a period of time to make sure that the proper process has been performed. And then upon obviously the completion of the notice of disposition, then council will consider the final disposition of the property.
Thank you, Mr. Wong. Mr. Smith.
Well, thank you very much, Mr. Mayor and Council. I appreciate the opportunity to come in and share what I know about this lot. It goes back to 2011 when I attended an open house at the house immediately to the east of what is the existing now road allowance. And at that open house, the realtor assured everybody in attendance that the owner of the house had a lease with the District of West Vancouver for $1 a year on that road allowance. And that's why he built a garage and a family room and some other structures on the site. Obviously, I thought that was a complete load of you-know-what. So I went next time I was in the hall, I talked to staff. And they confirmed there was no lease in place and there was no building permit ever issued for all those structures. So it was obviously, the decision was made that they should be forced to remove them. And I thought there was an opportunity there to create revenue with a building lot with the existing easement remaining. We went to court in 2012 to have the structures removed, And as typical bad luck with the District of West Van, we got a completely strange, unhinged judge that ruled in favor of the homeowner.
We have read it.
On the argument that the district had waited too long to, ask for the encroachments to be removed. Anyway, the good news is that in 2014, under appeal, that was reversed. So the encroachments were ordered to be removed. And just trying to make sure I get my dates straight.
If it helps, actually, Mr. Former Mayor, I do have a copy of all of the resolutions that were passed and their dates. And obviously a very wise decision to go to the Court of Appeal and to win that and then create this lot. And it was in April 4th of 2016 that you closed the road. It was moved by Councillor Cassidy and seconded by Councillor Cameron to create the lot. That's the history.
I hope you're timing yourself. You're cutting into my 3 minutes.
I'll give you more time.
Anyway, the lot was finally put on the market in 2023 and didn't sell for a price that was acceptable to the district. So apparently there's now an offer accepted, which includes the right-of-way. Initially, when the property was listed, the right-of-way was to be left as it is in the existing location. So anyway, proper process, I would have thought, would be that the matter would go back out to the marketplace with the new conditions, so that anybody interested in the lot would know that there was an opportunity to purchase it without the right-of-way, which obviously increases the value of the lot. Anyway, now that you've used my time, I'm going to clip through as quickly as I can. No, I'm going to give you more time, don't you worry. Okay, well, that's good. Although I never like to be too verbose in this chamber. I think it would be, the question is, where are we going to go from here? I think the logical place to go is the lot should be relisted with a realtor that specializes in West Van waterfront lots. And eventually a buyer will come. There's no more West Van waterfront being produced. It's irreplaceable and it will always retain its value. So we do not need to be in a rush to hook the right buyer. If we list the property with the existing easement, eventually I have absolutely no doubt that it will sell. So that would be, I think, the preferable way forward for everybody. If that happened, we meet the public goal of producing revenue from the site. We allow our residents and the neighbors in the area to continue to use the access. And I think we restore public trust in the way we handle land sales in the District of West Vancouver.
That's time, sir.
So that's my comment.
Thanks very much.
Next speaker on the, pardon me. The next
Generally,
speaker on
we
the list is
discourage applause because we don't want to intimidate someone with a contrary view, but thank you.
the next name on the list is Sydney Sharp, followed by Lawrence Rolston.
Thank you, Ms. Sharp.
Thank you very much, and good evening, Mayor Sager and councillors. I am Sydney Sharp. I live in the 3000 block of Proctor Avenue, and I am a retired production designer and art director. Tonight is an important moment. You will be voting on whether or not to close the public beach access land where Proctor Avenue meets Park Lane in West Vancouver for sale and future property development to a private buyer. This would inevitably mean clear-cutting the trees and eliminating the park. Via a sign posted at the height of summer when many people were away on holiday, the municipality invited the public for feedback. 3 months have passed, and public awareness has had time to build. Hundreds of letters have been written by members of the community to Mayor and Council, which are posted on the district website alongside tonight's agenda. The overwhelming majority oppose this idea and are indeed shocked that this is even happening. Our petition, entitled "Stop the Sale of Public Beach Access at 30th Street," has captured 2,093 signatures to date. The empty lot at 3,000 Park Lane won an offer of $5 million, which you rejected as being too low. So the beach access parkland was added to please a private buyer. This precious strip of waterfront land was valued at $1.5 million, which is bewildering to many people. The sticking point here appears to be the $1.5 million. After soliciting public feedback, your constituents have responded loud and clear, yet you appear to not be listening, because 3 months later you are holding out for $1.5 million in the face of significant opposition. I don't understand why a compromise cannot be reached. Sell the empty lot and place a covenant on the existing beach access with its canopy of trees that provide shade in the summer, rain protection in the winter, and a nature habitat for birds. It is a privilege to live in this beautiful neighborhood. Let us keep this beloved public amenity. I am urging you to go back to the drawing board and find another way to raise the $1.5 million. In conclusion, I am addressing this question to our mayor and to the individual councillors tonight. How will it be possible for you to vote this through if in such clear terms your taxpaying community has opposed it?
That's time, ma'am.
We are counting on you, our elected officials, to act in the public interest. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Sharp.
Thank you, Mayor Sager. The next name on the list is Lawrence Rolston, although I see now that I believe Ms. Sharp purports or wishes to read on his behalf.
Okay. He has written us a letter, which I know, an email today, which I know all members of council will have seen and read.
And the next,
Very brief letter.
Certainly, please, of course.
He was an important part of our group, and he asked me to read. So this is from Lawrence Rolston, who lives at 30th Street, and he's currently overseas. Hello, Mayor and Council. I am overseas and not able to attend the meeting today, so would like to share my thoughts now. I spoke about this with Malcolm Hassman. He and I are soccer dads from way back, and we have worked together on 8 transactions. As you know, Malcolm is an expert in West Vancouver waterfront. He knows this property, he knows the situation. Malcolm is very confident that, if marketed appropriately, 3,000 Park Lane would sell for $5.2 to $5.3 million, without including the access property. Having said that, he would not take on the listing, but provided names of other realtors who he believes would market it effectively. There are several examples of how Malcolm suggests it should be marketed differently. For example, he noted that the property appears narrow due to the tight spacing of the house to the east and the trees along the path encroaching on the property. He suggests including a physical representation of the property line to show the true extent of the lot as is. Selling that beach access is very unpopular. It is not worth the difference in price to go through with this transaction. I encourage you to look at alternatives, including having another agent market the property without including the beach access. Lawrence Rolston.
Thanks very much. The next speaker.
Thank you, Mayor Smith. The next name on the list is Robin Smith, followed by Cheryl Rasmussen.
Thank you.
I believe Cheryl Rasmussen is also a written submission that Robin Smith was hoping to read out by the looks
Thank
of
you.
it.
Ms. Smith, thanks for joining us this evening.
Good evening, Mayor and Councillors. My name is Robin Smith, and I live in the 200 block of 29th Street in West Vancouver. I have lived in West Van from the age of 2 when my parents built a house in the Eagle Harbor neighborhood, and have either lived here or been closely connected ever since. I have enjoyed beach access paths all the way from Whitecliff to Ambleside over these many years. Over the past several years, I have noticed some changes where less convenient access has resulted. For example, at the bottom of my street, the stairs that were certainly in need of some repair were suddenly removed, and now a viewing area remains. But never, ever have I noticed a public-owned beach access being sold. And who can authorize this? Is a notice referring to a highway change sufficient? Was it ever properly for sale? How does it get included as potential for its addition to the lot in an MLS contract? At the very least, a final vote on this issue should be delayed until the concerned and interested public has time to obtain an opinion regarding the exchange value of a fee-simple ownership versus the cute trade of a proposed right-of-way. This seems a very dangerous precedent to set. Back to the beach access stairs at 29th. I heard comment at the mayor's meeting last Wednesday that these stairs would be replaced without delay. No doubt cost was the reason they were not repaired a few years ago. Does anyone really want them back? Has this been canvassed at all? A very elaborate and no doubt expensive set of stairs was built nearby in the Altamont Park a few years ago. As there was already a serviceable path very close to these stairs, I wonder why those new stairs were considered necessary. Now I see that the stairs and train track overpass at 26th Street will be removed. This path is directly opposite the 26th Street beach access, and I would much rather see those well-used stairs and overpass repaired than the 29th Street stairs rebuilt. Is perhaps the 26th Street beach access seen as another potential building lot to sell? Are our many and treasured beach accesses seen as a bank account to be sold when money needed? And needed. What is the big panic need to sell the 30th Street beach access, or even the adjoining lot? The stated goal is to purchase the remaining lot next to the ferry building. That house is barely visible and is not preventing any enjoyment of Ambleside. It's not even for sale. And if bought, I understand it can only be improved to the point of adding grass, for which I'm sure the Canada Geese will be delighted. So I wish to conclude that the final vote should be delayed, since the proposed right-of-way exchange was only presented less than a week ago and could result in a very dangerous precedent. Thank you.
Thanks very much. And just so you know, I believe council is very keen on finding a way to replace the train bridge at 26th. That's owned by, I understand it's owned by CN Rail, or was built by them, but we do recognize real value. It's not an issue that council has had the opportunity to canvass yet, but I know there's many of us around the table that feel that's a very important community asset. So,
very good to hear.
Thank you. Could we have the next speaker then?
Yeah, I'm back again as Cheryl Rasmussen.
Oh, okay. This is a unique presentation this evening.
This one's brief as well. So Cheryl Rasmussen lives on Duchess Avenue in Ambleside. And she says, I am hopeful that some extra time will be given to make this decision to sell the access at 3000 Park Lane, as many citizens have put a great deal of time trying to figure out what the urgency is. I understand the prospective buyer has proposed a new plan which would give the district a right-of-way. That will never be the same as having a piece of property owned by our community. West Vancouver and its residents have always been very protective of their waterfront. The idea of selling this off does not align with the decisions we have come to know. None of us know what the future will hold, but having real estate that is owned by all the citizens can never be a bad idea. I certainly never dreamt that we would be in a lockdown and spend many hours walking great distances discovering new and old places, but that was what many of us were doing during COVID lockdown. It could happen again, and all these little beaches and their access are very necessary. Before moving to Ambleside, I resided at 2905 Marine Drive, which now has an application for a 5-plex. If that gets accepted, we will have 5 families on that property, where previously there was 1. Perhaps the Marine Drive corridor will see many new developments, more people, more desire to have a little waterfront to sit upon. Please give this decision a pause to make sure we are making the correct decision for future generations. Thank you, Cheryl Rasmussen.
Thanks very much. And the next speaker is...
Thank you, Mayor Sager. The next speaker is Michael Booth, followed by John Miller.
Thank you. Thank you for joining us this evening, sir.
Thank you. I'll just have a quick sip before the 3 minutes starts.
That's all good.
Attaboy.
I'll do the same. Cheers.
Cheers. Good evening, Mr. Mayor and councillors. My name is Michael Philip Booth. Formerly I lived at 4717 Piccadilly South, and I now reside at 2242 Folkestone Way in West Vancouver. My treatise is titled, The Existing Historic Waterfront Beach Access in West Vancouver is Not for Sale. In fact, it's never been for sale. It never should be for sale. And in this meeting, hopefully, it never will be for sale. And councillors, it's all up to you. It takes courage and stamina to fight for what one believes in. That is why we are here tonight in great numbers. That is why over 2,090 citizens signed a petition to stop this transaction, and why hundreds of people have taken the time to write you letters demanding that the halt be of this questionable land transaction. Councillors, you are honor-bound in duty to listen to your constituents. You cannot and must not operate in a vacuum. I realize it takes more courage and stamina to admit when one makes a mistake. But councillors, this is a very important issue. The path you have chosen to go down is proving to be the most and the biggest mistake you've made so far. Morally and ethically, that path is not yours to sell. It belongs to the people, and the people say no. Tonight, I am asking you all to show courage and stamina in doing the right thing. We need 3 more votes from councillors to void this land transaction. Then we can all go home. Please cast your vote with integrity, without fear of retribution or alienation. Vote your conscience, and finally vote with your community in their fervent desire to retain the existing historic waterfront beach access for us and for future generations. The end.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor Sager. The next speaker is John Miller, followed by Danica Marsden.
Good evening, Dr. Miller. It's nice to have you here this evening.
It's always a pleasure to be here. Good evening, Mayor and Council, and thank you for keeping democracy ticking over by hosting open conversation, civil conversations on touchy issues such as the use of our common land resources. Congratulations. On this 30th Street beach access, it's obviously been mentioned already that we have generally enjoyed a lot of good beach access in West Van, but we're slowly seeing an encroachment on it. The 29th Street one seems to have disappeared, and now the 30th access is under threat. And this is what I'm concerned about, is that if this package that's proposed is approved, that means that access has become privatized and is part of that building lot. And they've agreed to a replacement access, but I've climbed up and down that property a couple of times. It's a very steep property, hasn't been surveyed. There's no assurance that such an access is either geotechnically or economically feasible. So there's a definite risk that if this proposal went ahead, there would not be a replacement access at that location. So that's point one. Point two is And of course, the other point is that by merging this property with the access, they estimate there'll be a price for this trophy property, as it's being called, of $7 million. And they've agreed to this right away and so forth. But the revenue from the sale of this, I understand by the community charter, has to be used for the purchase of equal valuable access point somewhere for the same body of water.
That's correct.
Now, that same body of water is Burrard Inlet, but it's a different location and with a different population being served. So in my mind, that doesn't really qualify. And the third point I'll make is that if those two things are true, then the third thing is that the only people who are really going to benefit from this are the multimillionaires who are proposing to purchase the property. So since the World Series is on, as strike 1, 2, and 3, I think this proposal should not be accepted.
Are those your thoughts?
Yes.
Thank you so much. We'll see you soon.
Thank you, Mayor Sager. The next speaker is Danica Marsden, followed by Tom Bowen, and then Maureen Willick. Danica
Thank
Marsden.
you. Ms. Marsden, thanks for joining us this evening.
Hi, good evening, Council. I'm your constituent. I live up the hill, and I'm currently employed by the Central Bank of Canada. The loss of waterfront lands are the kind of change that can't be easily unwound. We are seeing this with the railway and the seawall right now. And so this issue of the sale of 3000 Park Lane is wrapped up in a bigger issue, along with things like Brissenden Park. And basically, what we're talking about is the vision West Van has for itself. And at the end of the day, one of the problems is that West Van doesn't have very much money, probably thanks to having one of the lowest property tax rates in the Lower Mainland. We have one of the least funded police departments. So we see that you have to make tough decisions about what to do with our resources. I'm not saying that this is the right call, but it would probably be easier for the district to own a bunch of waterfront land if its residents were willing to pay for it. The central question, though, here is whether the city should sell off this beach access land at all, understanding, of course, that the district can't sell the beach itself due to Crown foreshore ownership and riparian rights. On the district side, it seems it believes it's allowed to sell this lot, and it argues that it will use those funds to buy even better beach access elsewhere. It's hard to see where that would be realistic. The general idea that the district might remove access in some places and add it in others as part of a larger scale approach to improving beach access seems defensible. And municipalities sometimes need to trade off costs and benefits between residents. Cities can't be frozen in amber, which is what some of these procedural arguments would push it towards. So the district doesn't have to maintain beach access at one location simply because it currently exists there, though as a political matter, it would need to be able to demonstrate that it's making the right trade-offs. Presumably, this is why the district is now offering a new path to this beach as well to balance the scales. The district's argument that it needs to sell this land is susceptible to the argument that money is fungible. Perhaps they could raise taxes, sell something else, or cut funding somewhere else that is less precious to the public than this lot. Or to the procedural points above, maybe it's not getting the full value of this precious resource due to how it's being sold. Whether there are clearly superior alternatives is a question that requires deep knowledge of the facts, which is why we elect governments to decide these things. In the absence of a specific obligation in law, such as requiring beach access with certain accessibility characteristics or with a certain frequency along the coastline, it's hard to dispute this kind of government action beyond saying they got the wrong trade-off. However, just because a decision is political doesn't mean that it can't be contested. Although there are probably a small number of local folks who simply don't want to see their neighborhood lose an amenity, some may also be animated by a general feeling that West Vancouver needs to put more priority on beach access.
That's time, ma'am.
For them, protesting the change brings attention to this larger issue.
Thanks very much.
Thank you. The next speakers are Tom Bowen.
Excuse me.
I think that, I think it's great that everybody has an opportunity, but I do think that we need to once again request that the applause remain silent, just to make sure that everybody is treated fairly.
Yeah, ladies and gentlemen, it actually doesn't normally add to the add to the cause. Thank you, Councillor Snyder. Good evening, sir.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. Well, I've heard and read a lot of the comments and that, so I think I will just shorten up my talk and say that I think it's the wrong move. And one of the concerns I have is that we're trading off land we already own for a narrow piece of walkway that's going to cost a lot of money. Oh, we've made a deal. They'll build it, the new owners will build it, but the city or the district will have to build the part that's down to the water. The most difficult part, the part that's going to be subject to the greatest sea problems, water washing and stuff. And I just can't see why we would trade a good path for something that we don't know what it's going to be and spend all that money. That's the only issue that I see different from all the rest of it, that why we're doing that. The property with the area, it's longer and it's just as wide as most of the properties to the east on Proctor Avenue. So I think that a builder or an owner can build a beautiful home on that piece of property without having us to give them our public access. The other thing that, like, you can see the pictures by the realtor, how beautiful the beach is. And they also did a house, a design of a house, but they don't show the plan. Now, is that plan, or what's their plan, that is it going to be able to be on the narrower lot, or does it require a bigger lot? We have a lot that was sold beside us, and the architect by the district designed a home or put caveats on it. Unfortunately, the people that bought the lot weren't following any of the district's requirements.
That's time, sir.
Oh, okay. Fortunately, the buyers had a fight and sold it again, and then we got a person who bought who followed the districts. So I don't see why we're doing this. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
The next speaker on the list is Maureen Willick, followed by Dan Cordingley.
And how many more do we have?
I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and there's another list over there with some names. I'm not sure of the exact number, but 5 to 10, I would guess.
Thank you.
Good evening, Mayor and
Thank you
Council.
for joining us.
My name is Maureen Willick. I live at 3054 Marine Drive. I use the beach access quite often. I love it. From Park Lane, the sign reads, "Welcome to Altamont Beach Park." As you enter, you feel like you are in a lovely wooded tunnel that leads down to the beach. This is the park experience that has been there for 100 years. I think it should remain. This is one of those special little places that people enjoy. It seems like what remains of old West Van is slowly slipping away. Do we really want to strip away these special spots? Not me. Moving the access east is not only a bad idea, but it would deliver you to the other side of the big rocks at the bottom, so accessing the little beach would be impossible at high tide, so very limited. The Realtor's website says, "Enjoy swimming, fishing, and kayaking on your new waterfront playground, ... as it is not easily accessible to anybody else. I know this is all about money, but I say leave the Ambleside house until you have resources to purchase it without selling off beach access. Another idea is to take a pause and sell the lot when the foreign ban is lifted. Chances are you'll get a higher price. Selling our parkland is a bad idea. Please do the right thing. Thank you.
Thanks so much. And the next speaker.
Dan Cordingley, followed by Christine Habler, I believe.
Thank you. And I'm sorry, the gentleman's name?
Dan Cordingley.
That's correct, yeah.
Welcome.
Yeah, good evening, Mr. Mayor and councillors. I'm a newbie here in some respects. I just relocated back from the U.S. and my wife and I bought a place a couple years ago at 3051 Proctor Avenue. It was an old 90-year-old cottage, and we just recently went through the Board of Variance process with the district. And one of the things we wanted to come back to Vancouver. Living in the U.S., it can be a wild west. We lived on Whidbey Island, and people were able to do things without going through any process or any approvals. And so we really like the process here. We really like the process the district has put in. And we found the Board of Variance process, the planning department, the Board of Variance board members, everything was very transparent, very professional. And we were grateful we were successful with what we had to do, but we came away just feeling very confident about the district's processes. So we contrast that with what's happened here. We probably walked by that lot, we're like 3 doors down from it. We probably walked by that lot on average a couple times a day, so we know it very well. And in June of 2023, we saw the sign go up for sale. Nowhere did it indicate it was district property. We certainly weren't notified. In the Board of Variance process we went through, all our neighbors got letters and were encouraged to look at all the information. We just assumed it was a private individual selling their land, and a new house would go up and that would be fine and probably improve the neighborhood. We didn't find out that the beach access was being included in that until one of our neighbors told us in sort of late August. And so to be such a close resident and obviously really value that beach access, it's one of the reasons we bought where we did, really caught us off guard. I mean, we really couldn't believe that we weren't notified and that there wasn't really any, open discussion about, why this is being sold, all the particulars around the negotiation and the listing. I think the report that came out on the 18th of this month really did provide a lot of these details. But it also, you can tell that, looking at the lot and the comments in that report, there's a lot of things that are omitted. For instance, that lot has no western view at all. And the reason is because of all the trees on the beach access. Those are mature, large trees, and it really cuts that lot's view off to the west, really reducing the value of that lot or its desirability.
That's time, sir.
Okay. If what's proposed goes ahead, there is no way the beach access is a fair trade for the right-of-way, because that owner will take all those trees down, and we'll end up with a vastly different path versus what we have today. So I would recommend that the process be restarted, do it the way you can do it, and we've seen it done with Board of Variance, and have a much deeper community conversation before this is allowed to go ahead. Anyway, thanks very much.
Thanks very much. And the next speaker.
Thank you, Mayor Sager. The next speaker, I can read the first name is Christine, the last name Habler. I got it right the first time. Thank you.
Ms. Hagler, thanks for joining us this evening.
Hi, thank you for allowing me to speak. I don't have much more to add from what's already been spoken. I think they have make tremendous arguments here, but I live at 4289 Morgan Crescent. I'm about a block and a half away from the beach, but I do live on Cypress Creek, and when we bought the house, we had an easement on our property. Our property goes into the creek, as does our neighbor, and the people next door don't. What I've learned from easements is that organizations like Streamkeepers, for instance, need to do certain things to the creek, and they have to come to us and ask us for our permission in order to do them, because we have these easements. And our neighbor to the right of us is very recalcitrant. She's very difficult, and she doesn't want anything done. And she makes it very impossible for Streamkeepers, and which is an organization that I really support, and they're doing great work North Shore. My point is that once you give away a piece of public land, whether it be a piece of a creek or anything else, it's up for negotiation. It's like this land is public land. It's our taxpayers' land. It's our access. Why the district would want to give that or sell that to a private individual is kind of beyond me. And that's really all I have to say. I think that once you give it into the hands of private ownership, it makes it extremely difficult for anybody to really have anything to say. Okay.
Just on the issue of the Streamkeepers, as many of us around the table here are very strong supporters of the work they do in our community.
Mm-hmm.
I'm curious and interested, so if you want to follow up on, actually Councillor Gambioli is also very involved. If there's some issue where the Streamkeepers aren't being given access, we would like to know about that.
Well, it's not that, we had to work a lot. We had to work very heavily on our neighbor to get her to agree to what the Streamkeepers needed to do. We ultimately turned her around.
Oh, good.
But it was challenging. And I think, I've been working quite closely with the Streamkeepers because I adore what they do. But it was one of those things where I thought, why would, I have an easement, but why would the district ever have given the previous owners that private access onto a creek is beyond me. I mean, why that even exists in the first place is beyond me. And that's all.
Interesting. Thanks very much.
The next speaker on the list, Mayor Sager, is Peter Schofield, followed by Sandy Lytle. And then we've got 2 or 3 more names after that.
Thank you, Mr. Schofield. Good to see you today, and thanks for your very comprehensive and long email we received this afternoon.
Good, glad you did. Thanks, Mayor and Councillors. Pleased to be here. I'm Peter Schofield. I live at Squamalt Avenue in West Ambleside. Perhaps some of you are wondering why a person like me in Ambleside is so passionate about this particular issue. And it's because in my youth, when I was going to university for 3 years at UBC, in the last 3 years, I had a girlfriend that lived at 2998 Park Lane. So
the offending house. Oh, did you know that they had built over the municipal property?
I am very intimately aware of that. Loved to go to the swimming pool. Spent many, many hours there. Anyways, I did distribute with you today this list of questions. I'm glad you mentioned them, Mayor Sager. They're right there.
Yes, we have all received them and read them, so
good,
thank
good.
you.
My view of these questions, if I was going to be making a decision, which you're being asked to, I would like to know the answer to most of those questions. And they're quite detailed, as you understand. Now, the previous proposal and this one disturb me because they mean that we're going to lose that beach access path. Now, we're talking about beach access here. So I want to read to you the definition of a beach. A beach is a strip of land covered with sand, pebbles, or small stones at the edge of a body of water, especially by the ocean between high and low water. Now, this particular beach access path has a very nice little beach. And many of you that have been there, and I've been there, if you look to the east and to the west properties, those aren't beaches. Those are waterfront. They have waterfront access, not beachfront access. So this beach is obviously a very important feature and coveted by the proposed owners of this particular lot. And probably one of the reasons why they're so interested in having that sealed off, which will make it almost inaccessible by the public. One of the other features of this, and the way it's being built with environmentally friendly materials, not all concrete, but some posts, wooden posts, and lots of dirt and some rocks down at the bottom. But this particular lot and that path is very immune to any damage from sea level rise. It's got at the head of this particular path up at Park Lane. It is very high and very, basically it's sea level rise and storm surge proof. So I did mention the fact that there's no beach access for the neighbors. I'd like to now look at the other proposal, which is if we're going to lose this path, we're apparently going to be given a statutory right-of-way for the public to use another path. Now, this particular path doesn't exist right now. It's narrower, and it's got 3 sections that I think are going to be very difficult. It's not nearly as environmentally pleasing, aesthetically pleasing as the other one. And there's that first section where there's that concrete from the previous buildings.
That's time, sir.
And the worst thing about this whole path is it does not have a terminus that is inviting and friendly. So I would like to close in conclusion that I'd like to see this proposal that you have in front of you not adopted, and the existing beach path trail moved to lie completely within the unclosed road allowance and be protected through a perpetual statutory right-of-way or an easement as is being proposed for the other path. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Schofield. And the next speaker.
The next
Sorry,
speaker.
Councillor Cassidy.
To apologize for interjecting at that point, but when Mr. Schofield began his speaking, you were taking up his time, and I'd like each of these speakers to have their allotted 3-minute time without council or mayor interrupting them. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Cassidy. Thank you. Let's carry on with the next speaker.
The next speaker is Sandy Lytle, followed by Christopher Molyneux.
Thank you. Ms. Lytle, thanks for joining us this evening.
Good evening, Mayor and councillors. I am completely opposed to the sale of this access. It's public property, and to trade it for an easement is not the same as owning the property. In this district, we have sold the uplands to the British Properties in 1930s. We have sold the old police station to Grosvenor, and those decisions are still talked about and still contentious, and this is going to end up the same way. I am concerned that this critical decision has been made in haste. There's been deadlines, and there's a lack of transparency that has not been fully discussed. As I read through this whole report, I see that the realtor's brochure included a little caveat. It can include 2,500 square feet in addition, plus a plan. Did the council and did the district know that the realtor was marketing this property, and did she have authority to do that? I really wonder about that. The reconfiguration of the path, how much is it going to cost us? What is it going to look like? It doesn't seem to be a fair trade. Anecdotally, I hear that this money from the lot and from the easement is going to go to buy the last lot on Ambleside Beach. First of all, the lot was a windfall. It was signed over to West Van by the province when the road allowance was removed. And to ask for another $1.5 million and expect that is just greedy. We don't need it. We can find the money elsewhere. It's not for sale at the moment. And I see when I read through the council report that might be a promise or an intention of this council, but I see that the proceeds will be for the purchase of a similar property somewhere on Burrard Inlet to provide waterfront access. That can mean a lot of things depending on the council. Might be honored by this group, but who knows in 10 years or 5 years. I expect council is going to be a steward for the lands of West Vancouver and look after them, not for the short term. You know, we need to buy this property, but for what's going to happen over 50 or 100 years. And what I said in my letter is that I sent yesterday, the Clyde family farm grazed their cattle on Ambleside Beach 100 years ago. Logs were being skidded down Hollyburn Mountain, and people have the remnants of that in their backyards in Ambleside. What is going to happen in 100 years? What is it going to look like? We have no idea, and to sell this property is a poor decision in my opinion, because we need it, or we might need it for density and for what's going on in the future. And I think that the whole process needs re-examining. The property needs to be properly appraised and put back on the market, and not cave in to a buyer that wants and is putting pressure on council that they want that extra bit and is putting in a few little carrots to try and get their way.
That's
Thank
time,
you.
ma'am.
Thank you, Ms. Lydell. Thank you. The next speaker.
The next name on the list is Christopher Molyneux, followed by Cassandra Sawtell.
Thank you, Mr. Molyneux. Thank you for joining us this evening.
Before I start playing my game of Beat the Clock, I just wanted to say that in the meeting that took place between the mayor and some concerned citizens a few days ago, it was said that there would be put forward a motion to guarantee the completion of the beach access as part of this. That hasn't yet been mentioned, so before I dig into this, I am saying what I'm saying, bearing in mind what was said, and that a motion be put forward to guarantee the completion of the beach access. Okay? So, bearing that in mind, tick, tick, tick. All right. As some of you, my name's Christopher Molyneux. As some of you might know, I was the first one who sounded the public alarm bell when it looked like we might lose public access to the beach at 3000 Park Lane. I'm going to give a simple summary at first, then add a few relevant bits and pieces as succinctly as I can muster. Here's the simple. There was a threat that access to the beach at 3000 Park Lane might be lost. There was a public protest. As a result, a compromise has been drafted wherein there will still be a beach access at 3000 Park Lane, and the public will be allowed to participate in the design of the access, and the resulting increase in tax revenue will take care of the maintenance cost of the beach access in perpetuity. In short, the public were heard, we won. And I thank all those involved for responding to the concerns, taking the time to put all this together. Thank you, whoever you might be, wherever you might be. But, having said that, I still know there are a lot of concerned citizens. I used to be one of them. I have spent a lot of time considering and researching numerous aspects of this. When I learned we might lose beach access at 3000 Park Lane, I was upset. I already knew the path would have to be reduced in width and reconfigured, because that was part. And this is a misunderstanding that's been happening consistently with what I've been hearing. That access would never stay the same as it was, unless there was just no lot at 3000 Park Lane. The stairs go off to the east. They would have to be reconfigured. They wouldn't go to the beach part that people are talking about. They would go further to the west. The trees that were there would have to be removed because of the changed lot lines. The remaining of the trees and the line that the steps take down was never proposed to remain the same. And I knew that because the map had been sitting there for a year. I walked by it almost every day, and I had no problem with that. I just wanted to make sure I had beach access. That's all I wanted, was the access to the beach. So when I reached out to the local media, the reason they were interested was that the idea that beach access might be lost. That's why there was a fuss, the idea that beach access might be lost. Not reconfigured, but lost.
That's time, sir.
It's okay. We've allowed others to go carry on, so please.
I'll go as swiftly as I can muster. This proposal seeks to maintain the beach access, and I love the fact that West Vancouver citizens can help to determine how the new beach access will look, what the plantings will be, where the benches can be put, all that good stuff. I think it's great. Let's get together and make something beautiful. Some people like the aesthetic of the current beach access, but I have to respectfully disagree with them. Aesthetics are a personal thing, but I can tell you from the perspective of landscape design, the current access is untenable. And 35 years ago or so, someone in Public Works decided to put 2 rows of cedars all the way down there. They were never maintained. They were supposed to be 10 feet high. They're 50 feet high now. Now you have a park that is dark in all seasons with no view and nothing can grow. There's no sunlight. The soil is now highly acidic. So you have, and the unoccupied viewless bench halfway down is an ironic reminder of this poor design. Now we have a chance to learn from the mistakes of the past and design something better. The first 20 feet are all dead sticks right now. And there are 38 dead trees along the sides. I counted them today. I went down there. There are 38 dead trees there. So while you can, which is a fire hazard as well. So while you can argue the aesthetic point, that aspect you can't argue. That's
Thank you, Mr.
just as it is. Anyway,
Thank you.
Thanks.
The next speaker is Cassandra Sawtell, followed by Jessica Paisley. And then the last name I have on the list, Mayor Sager, is via WebEx, Fiona Akins.
Thank you.
I didn't intend on speaking tonight, but as a constituent and someone who had the privilege of growing up in West Vancouver and who hopes to one day raise her family in West Vancouver herself, I felt the need to speak just of hearing what was going on.
Just because we have two of you and we don't know.
I'm Cassandra.
Hi, my name is Jess. My name was placed with Cassandra's. We're here to speak together because we come with a tandem perspective of youth. We were raised across the street from each other, and so we're going to sort of combine our time, if that's okay with you.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
You know, I've had the opportunity of traveling to many other countries and cities, and I've always remarked on the fact that it was a pity when people did not have access to their own beachfront. And I never thought that it would be something that we'd be faced with here in West Vancouver. I've watched this community change from small stores like Capers and Harry's Hardware and, you know, the market into money exchanges and, you know, chain restaurants and such. So I've had to face the fact that the community is going to change with businesses, but I always thought that at least the land we hold dear would stay open to everyone. And so it's appalling to see the precedent that's going to be set by this sale of public land to private. You know, I don't know what the pertinent information of this sale today, but it sets a precedent for tomorrow. One day other people will sit in the chairs you sit in now, and maybe they're going to continue selling off what I hope my children can one day enjoy. So it's, I think, an important decision you make today, and I hope that you make one that affects future generations and doesn't just rest on $1.5 million. That money might seem like chump change 10, 15, 20 years from now. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Cassandra. I've titled my portion of time as "What You Fiend to Do Is Wrong, and You Cannot in Good Conscience Go Forward with This Proposal." As a lifelong born and raised resident of West Vancouver, we have spent the majority of our childhood memories on the public beaches. In fact, most residents and childhood friends that I've spoken to, if not all of them, speak to the beach access of this city as the most important, beautiful, and unique part of being raised in this place. Across the board, for, as it was said, over 100 years, every resident of West Vancouver can attest that their childhoods have been enriched by the enjoyment we've experienced on our city's waterfront. This enrichment is valuable beyond any financially measurable means. And for the future generations of our city, you cannot go forward with such an unbelievably undemocratic and uninclusive proposal. As relatively young people in West Vancouver, unfortunately some of the younger people here, I don't see a lot of young people here at this council meeting. That's upsetting.
Bill C-18.
Yeah, I'm only 26 years old and I barely recognize the West Vancouver I was born and raised in. I returned from only 3 years away at law school, and when I moved back to my hometown 3 years away, I feel as though more development and privatization has taken place in the past 3 years than all the previous 23 years of my life here combined. It was very concerning. I fear that the precedents that this potential mistake will make will be impossible to come back from. In fact, this decision, if it were to go forward, would be more than an egregious miscarriage of justice. I think it would equate to a trend towards damnation of the equal enjoyment of the city and childhood memories for our future generations. Seriously. And on a final note, this isn't your land to give, okay? Terra Nullius doesn't stand here, and towards a trend of reconciliation, this decision will be a stain on our city's history for generations. And your names will be tied to the vote. Your grandchildren will say, "Thanks a lot for limiting my beach access."
That's time, ma'am.
Being on the right side of history is important, and I'm going to leave you with a quote by Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. The time is always right to do something right. And finally, I have a quote shared with me by my lovely boyfriend, Naki. Our land is more valuable than your money. It will last forever. It will not ever perish by the flames of fire. As long as the sun shines and the waters flow, this land will be here to give life to men and animals. That is the chief of the Blackfeet speaking. And by the way, has anybody thought to consult the indigenous perspective? Like, hello? Mark.
Thanks very much. Thanks very much.
You're so welcome. Thank you for listening.
Thank you, Mayor Sager. The last name on the list that I have is Fiona Aikens. I've just promoted her in WebEx. Fiona Aikens, you should, oh, there you are. You've got 3 minutes. Please go ahead.
Hi, everybody. My name is Fiona Aikens. I was born and raised in West Vancouver, and I'm now privileged to raise my own family here. I am strongly opposed to Council's plan to sell this beach access, and frankly really dismayed that this is even under consideration. I do appreciate Council's recent revision to incorporate a statutory right-of-way into the proposal. However, as some of the other speakers have noted too, it is clearly not an advantage to our community to trade our existing freehold public ownership of this priceless and cherished waterfront access for a privately owned right-of-way. It will indeed newly cost us money to complete our share of the right-of-way, money we'll spend to create a path to the beach that already exists and that we already own today. I also want to highlight the mature quality and natural beauty of the existing path, a forested enclave inviting you to seek out the waterfront, which will be lost in our costly and sparse replacement of it. The advantage of this proposed sale in no way accrues to our community. It's very clearly a short-sighted and poor choice that benefits only the land buyer. I ask Council to reject this proposed bylaw and instead to direct staff to develop a new proposal to sell the 3000 Park Lane parcel without any infringement or sale of our cherished waterfront parkland. We are, all of us in this room, stewards of this beautiful community, and selling our existing public waterfront parkland is a failure of our privileged role indeed. I am so proud to have listened to the previous speaker, and I want to reiterate her words. This is not your land to give. Thank you very much.
Thanks for joining us this evening. Are there any further speakers? I see
There are none.
Mr. Roundtree. One more youth voice. Oh, it's good to consider yourself still a youth.
The youth mayor himself.
You see, I've known Mr. Roundtree's family I knew his grandfather extremely well because we sat at the same table for many years. So I can tease him a little bit.
Hello, members of council and mayor. Thank you for the opportunity to speak today. My name is Andrew Roundtree. I've grown up here in West Vancouver, attending school here and watching the community evolve. For my generation, maintaining access to nature is more important and more challenging than ever. It's not just about preserving nature, but about preserving accessible nature, places we can walk to, bike to, and bus to. West Vancouver is special because it has such a variety of parks and beach accesses, each with its own character, and it's this variety that makes our community great. Many young people can tell you just how necessary small accessible spaces like these beach access points are. While large central parks like Ambleside are wonderful, it's these smaller, more personal access points that allow us to escape into nature when we don't have private outdoor space of our own, as many of our generation don't have the luxury of enjoying. For me and many others, these places aren't just points on a map. The beach access near 3000 Park Lane has become more than a pathway. It's a place where I've met friends, spent time with my family, and built memories, especially during COVID, when outdoor spaces became lifelines for connection. It might seem small, but these pathways are where community comes together, and they carry meaning for the people who use them. I appreciate the councillors who took the time to listen to me and the others in the community. This issue has resonated with many people far beyond West Vancouver. My neighbors in Kitsilano, and recently even someone I met who lives in Cloverdale, shared their disappointment about losing this specific beach access. Even though there are plans to create a new access, preserving a historic pathway is different from creating something new. There's something special about the long-standing places that can't be replicated. Thank you for considering the wishes of this community. I hope we can keep the spirit of Canada and West Vancouver alive by maintaining our natural land for generations to come.
Thank you, Mr. Roundtree. I'll just ask again, ensuring that everyone's had an opportunity to speak this evening. Hearing none, thank you, ladies and gentlemen. We'll now turn to council. Councillor Snyder.
Yes, so I'd like to recommend that all written submissions regarding the proposed road closure and removal of Highway Dedication Bylaw number 5342, 2024, and disposition of 3000 Park Lane up to and including the council meeting held on October the 28th be received for information.
Is there a seconder?
I'll second that.
Call the question. All in favor? Contrary, motion is carried.
I would also like to recommend that now there is a new motion, amended motion So I'd like to recommend that the amended motion as written be recommended.
You're moving that motion. Is there a seconder?
I'll second that, yes.
Councillor Thompson. Is there any discussion on the motion? Councillor Thompson.
Yeah, quite a few questions, actually. I don't mind saying I'm completely overwhelmed. I thought I had a lot of discussions here, and I wish almost we'd had an opportunity as each speaker spoke to clarify a number of things that were said. I'm going to start with a couple of questions that I heard from the public that I'd like to get clarity from staff about. There is a concern about securing the access to the beach versus creating a waterfront access point. And I've heard a few comments made about it's not secure, it's not in the report, that the district will be obliged to create this access. So do we actually have that guarantee, as has been mentioned, and perhaps not outlined in the report?
Mr. Wong, and I should just say that even if if council was to proceed with this plan, as was mentioned, I would be proposing a motion which would guarantee that we would, during the next 2 years, build a new public access, and we would invite members of the public to participate in the design of that. It has to be separate, obviously, from this, but I want to make that perfectly clear, that I will put that motion forward. It's up to council what you would do with it, of course, like this issue as well. But I think members of the public need to understand that that was my statement.
Okay.
Mr. Wong, do you want to add anything to the discussion?
Well, it is, to you, Mr. Mayor, it is the prerogative of council to put in a pathway at your discretion. But there are obviously some issues that we need to resolve from a design perspective, but again, it's really up to council to make that decision.
Okay, thanks for that clarity. And in this process, I think, I believe as a councillor that this proposal was brought forward with integrity and good intentions. And I personally found myself in a humbled position, recognizing that I didn't consider or respect the need for that public access. In my mind, moving forward with this was the fact that there was another very ample access 170 meters away. So when the protest came from the public, it hit me that this is really important to maintain public access. And I agree. I was willing to step back. The part that I'm confused about now is because there's the public access and there's the property, and the property often is getting referred to as a park. We know it's a road closure technically, but there's a lot of reference to the park in the room tonight, and there's also a lot of reference to losing the access. So can you give us any clarity around that, staff?
Thank you. Ms. Kettler?
Thank you, Mayor Sager, through to Councillor Thompson. So legally, the land is a road allowance. It is not a park. However, there is a sign that indicates it's a park, and it is noted on a map that it is a park. When that was made clear, we did not remove the sign, nor did we reprint the map, because we were being very transparent through this process that is how it has been referred to, and that there is a sign. But technically, it is not a park. But I understand the community has considered it a park.
Okay. The other thing I'm hearing in the audience is it within our rights to sell this land? Is it our land to sell? Can we get some clarity around that?
Mr. Wong?
You certainly, through you, Mr. Mayor, you certainly have the right to sell land obviously at your discretion, obviously to the benefit of the public. And in this particular case, I know there's comments about the possibility of using those funds for other purposes, but it is a statutory requirement that it has to be utilized for other waterfront access in the same body of water.
Okay. No, sorry, this is no, sorry. No, sorry.
But, I can appreciate that. There's been so much download here that I wish we could have stopped along the way and gotten clarity. I'm going to do the best I can to answer my questions, and I'm sure other council members have some things. So hopefully by the end we'll figure this out together. So it seems like the public has moved from the concern about losing access to the beach. And there's a shift in some of the room that they just don't want the land sold at all, the road closure sold at all. And I'm not actually quite clear of who stands where on that. I've tried, tried to make some notes, but I'm trying to sort that one out in my mind. But I do understand if the road closure is sold, that even if we maintain the path to the right, to the west. It would have to be reconfigured because it actually crosses the parcel of land and encroaches on that parcel of land. So if you're in agreement that as long as we keep access, but you want it on the west side because of its historical nature and the current aesthetic, that is not reconcilable as far as I can understand. I do recognize it was a charming comment at the end about, to lose the historical nature of pathways as we know them, and then likewise from the other youth who, in their life that's been at least half as long as mine, have seen such change in West Vancouver. It's humbling to be on council these days. Many in our community actually don't think it's changed at all in decades, and the pressure on us to get up to speed and up to density and meet our regional requirements is immense. And I do believe we are trying to address that in the most delicate way, as well as maintaining the culture and nature of our community. I'm going to stop more or less for now because I know there's lots of other questions coming, but I do believe it's this council's intent to sustain the character and charm of our community. And I will say again, I believe the original motion to move forward in this capacity was done with great intent and integrity.
Thank you, Councillor Thompson. Councillor Gambioli.
Thank you. Okay, I have 5 questions, and then I have comments. So do I do the questions and the comments and everything now? Or do I do the questions and then we do the comments after everyone's asked questions?
Sure.
The second
Let's ask
one.
the questions.
The second one?
Yeah.
You're not going to call the motion before
No.
I get to say my second?
Well, anyone
blub.
can call a motion anytime, so.
Well, all right. Yeah, okay. All right, so several questions. Just following on one of Councillor Thompson's points. So the discussions I've had with people have been varied over the past few months, but I would just like to be clear with staff telling us what they envision going forward, what the 2 options are. So we're looking at, and by the way, the motion that's on the table right now was flashed before all of you. I'm sure none of you had time to read it. What it says is that the motion is to close the road allowance and that be adopted. Okay, that's the first point. That's the very bottom of this page, actually. Number 1 at the bottom. That's the actual motion. So the motion we're looking at making tonight is here. So the road closure is adopted, okay, because 3 months ago we did first, second, and third reading. And this would be the last vote to adopt that road closure, which means that portion on the west side of this property would be closed, and the 2 would then be consolidated in a future decision. Okay, and that second part would be staff publishing the public disposition. Okay, so anyway, that's what we're voting on tonight. That's all we're voting on tonight. Okay, so I just want to be clear on that part. So so we've got the question of the west trail, which would be on top of this road allowance, which essentially is the location where, more or less, where it currently is. We've got the other suggestion in the report of closing that road allowance and moving the trail to the east side, putting it on top of a statutory right-of-way down to the waterfront. So just want staff to describe for us what those two trails would look like.
Through you, Mr. Mayor. So just to clarify, the existing pathway cannot stay in its current location because it is straddling the lot proper, which means that, yeah, it would have to be moved to the west side and the road allowance if it was going to be rebuilt without selling the actual road allowance itself. So either way, that pathway would have to be rebuilt, whether it's on the west side or the east side. Current pathway designs is based on a lot of the pathway designs you probably see locally already in the current beach areas and new developments. So look and feel will be very similar to that arrangement.
Okay, thank you. So in other words, the path is not going to be the current path. Okay, it's not going to look anything like the current path. My personal opinion is either way, the path is going to be very narrow. It's going to be between, probably at the end of the day, two concrete walls, and it's going to go straight down to the beach. Because there's already a concrete wall on one side. When 2998 gets redeveloped, there's going to be another concrete wall. Anyway, it's going to be a narrow concrete walled-in straight pathway. There's going to be virtually no trees, probably, and that's my interpretation of what it's going to look like. So I just don't want people to be disappointed at the end of the day. No one's going to be super happy about any solution. So I'm sorry to say that, but I don't want anyone to be super disappointed. It's my impression.
Sorry, Mr. Wong, did you want to respond to that?
Yes, I'd just like to clarify. It's the building itself would be kind of the walls you were talking about, but typically most of the developments have to go through the contours of the existing grades. So there will possibly be landscaping straight down those pathways as well. If you look on the, I guess 3008 side, they have plantings going down that side. And then you can also do that on the opposite side, on the east side as well, because the contours will be following the current grades.
Okay, but on the west side, it's a concrete wall going down. The property owner has a concrete wall all the way down.
Yes, that's a determined spot on the west side. It's already built. Yes.
So that's what I mean. It's not going to be a cute, quaint pathway that we see today. So going back to my second question, does the owner at 2998 Park Lane approve of the statutory right-of-way or even know anything about the proposed statutory right-of-way?
Mr. Wong, I doubt it.
Well, currently, obviously the purchaser would own the statutory right of way, and he's the one that actually gives the rights to the use of that right of way for that particular use.
But my question is, does the neighbor at 2998 Park Lane approve of the statutory right of way or even know about the statutory right of way?
I'm not certain. Obviously, it's in the news, so I'm not sure if you got it that way. I'm not sure if anyone's actually confided in the neighbor.
Okay, we haven't given them notice. We haven't made an attempt to get them this report, or no, not that you know of. Okay, I take that as a no. The square footage of the lot with the road allowance added and without the road allowance added. Mr. Wong, could you just remind us of those numbers? Approximately?
Oh yeah, approximately the lot proper is around 9,200 square feet.
92?
9,200 square feet.
Yep.
And then the road allowance is approximately 2,500 square feet.
2,500 square feet. Okay, and so normally, as some people know, if you have a lot that's, let's say, 10,000 square feet, our current building guidelines or building bylaws allow you to build 3,000 square feet on a 10,000 square foot lot above ground. I'm simplifying. So, in other words, the house that could be built with the additional road allowance would be 25%, almost 25% larger than without the road allowance, correct?
Yes, that'd be correct.
Okay, thank you. And in terms of the legalities of this kind of transaction, I just want to assure the public through Mr. Wong or staff, any staff, that we have followed the proper process legally. We advertised the possibility of consolidation of the lot for 6 months, and you have now sort of checked off all the legal boxes related to this kind of transaction.
That's correct.
That's correct. Okay, so just want to assure people that there's actually no, legal issues here. And my last question is related to the report, page 20, or page 2 of your report, which talks about the proceeds of the disposition. This, I think, has got a lot of people confused, and just hoping that staff can explain this. It's my understanding is that it's part of the community charter, which is a piece of legislation that we are all under jurisdiction of. It says the proceeds of the disposition shall be paid into a reserve fund, with the money from the reserve fund used to acquire property that council considers will provide public access to the same body of water that is of at least equal benefit to the public. So could staff just talk for a minute about that and why we're doing this? This didn't just come from us.
Thank you, Mr. Wong.
Yes, it is, like I mentioned already, that it is a statutory requirement to utilize the funds to purchase other waterfront access in the same body of water. And it is obviously at council's discretion to determine what is the best public interest in that respect of which body of water you need access to.
So in other words, by selling this property, whether it's with the road allowance or not, we can't just use the money to, pay for the wastewater treatment plant or something. We have to use the money by law to put it towards public access to the same body of water. Am I right?
Yeah, that's correct.
Okay, just want to clarify that. That's a piece of legislation that is above us, that is written by the provincial governments, that keeps us in line. And it's essentially a way to make sure that municipalities don't sell off all of their public access. Or at least they trade it for other. So those are my questions for now.
Okay.
I reserve the right to speak later.
Thank you, Councillor Gambioli. Councillor Watt.
Yeah, so I've been out to the property several times, and I went back out again today, and I did a real assessment of the path that's there. So you can correct me if I'm wrong, Mr. Wong, but so there's the first 16 steps. They were put in, I think, in 2021 or 2019, somewhere in there. And that's followed by a short pathway and then 20 rotting railway ties, followed by 17 railway ties that are steep going down with no railing, covered by bramble. And then there's 14 steep winding stone and concrete steps. And when I got to the bottom of the concrete and stone steps, I took a good look, and it looks like there's a lot of erosion underneath those. So, to the best of my understanding, should we agree to amalgamate the two pieces of land, the removal of what appear to be failing concrete steps and the railway ties, that would be on the onus of the new owner, correct? We wouldn't have that added expense?
Mr. Wong?
Yeah, through you, Mr. Mayor, yes, that's correct. They would be responsible for the removal of that pathway.
Okay, and should we make the determination to keep the pathway where it is, but narrow it, which we would have to do because it extends onto the lot, that would still require a geotech report, as the other side would, to rebuild those steps?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, yes, in any location, there would still be required for geotech inspections and analysis.
Okay, so I've heard some people say, well, you know, the geotech report hasn't been done yet to move it to the east side, but to clarify then, I guess, as per what Mr. Wong said, we would still require a geotech report on the west side. So who pays the maintenance of the new path that the owner builds once it's in place?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, once the installation of the trail is in place, the district will be responsible for the maintenance of take ownership actually of the pathway itself and maintain it.
Okay, and in a recent matter that came into this room, we were looking at a concrete wall and the seawall, but part of the requirement was to put some form of vegetation to enhance that. Could we, you know, this was the first time tonight that I heard it would just be concrete on either side. So could we put something in there that it must be more aesthetically pleasing with foliage?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, that would be up to the district to decide in what they wanted to do at this point. The current agreement is basically the basic path that we're providing. Any additional work to that, enhancements, we could put in ourselves.
Okay, and am I correct, when I go out to the property, it looks like it's shallower access on the east side? Is that true, that the grade would be a little bit less steep?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, it depends. We cannot commit to what it's going to look like at this point. We just don't know what the configuration of the house and the dwelling is at this point as to what the grade's going to be in that location.
Okay, and I just want to go back to some of the points that were made by, I'm not going to say your last name correctly, Mr. Molyneux? I nailed it, okay. That, you know, this whole thing started because we were going to be taking away access to a public beach. And everything I understand about this process and the report that I've read is we are not taking away, and that needs to be clarified and understood, we are not taking away access, should council vote to approve this, of the water. Another thing that Mr. Molyneux brought up was the trees. That's something else that I've been concerned about since the first time I walked down there. They look like a fire hazard to me, so I understand some are very attached to them, but regardless, some of them fall on the 3000 Park Lane property anyway?
That's correct.
Okay, so there's no guarantee, regardless of whether we keep the access on that side, that we would keep those trees or not. And the other thing I want to clarify is this council, it wasn't we were not the first to come along and say that we wanted to sell Park Lane. I believe Mayor Smith and a couple of councillors at this table were in the original decision-making process back in, I believe it's 2012. People can correct me on that when I'm finished. 16, okay. And, you know, we've all got a lot of scars from this, all of you and everybody at this table, and I certainly have inflicted a lot of my own because I felt very sick, and I will say that, you know, that came up. Somebody brought up making a decision and then questioning it. I questioned myself the minute I walked out of here on July 22nd. So I was a dog with a bone, and Mayor Sager certainly knows what that looked like. And I had 3 things that I needed to know to be comfortable with it. Number 1, would the new owners keep access for as long as possible? That box has been ticked. Number 2, would there be new access? That has been ticked. And was it legally done? And
I know I have had numerous conversations with our municipal manager, Mr. Finley, with Mayor Sager, with legal, and I have been reassured through my tiresome questions that all of that has been done. That's all I have to say for now.
Thank you, Councillor Watt. Councillor Snyder.
Great, thank you. So that's the one thing when you hit the button after everybody else, most of your questions get answered. So first off, I just want to applaud all the passion that our community is showing by coming out and voicing their opinions, whether or not it be this evening, whether or not it was in July, whether or not it is in the abundant number of emails that we've received, telephone calls we've received. I'm comforted in the fact that our community does become very passionate about these sorts of things, and I applaud the community for coming out and voicing their concerns. On that note, I do think that there has been a great deal of misinformation on this topic, and I think that my fellow councillors have addressed many of those questions. The one for me, the big issue that seems to have been misunderstood is the fact that the existing pathway cannot and will not continue in its current state one way or the other, regardless of how the vote would to proceed this evening. So I think it is important that everybody does understand that that is the case. I know that many people this evening have brought up the petition, and again, I applaud all those that took the time to make the effort to reach out and get those signatures and what have you. I do think that the petition, though, does not currently reflect the current proposal that's in front of us today. So to suggest that all of those people that signed the petition, in fact, I know many people that signed the petition originally who I have since spoken with and said, oh, if I'd known that, I wouldn't have signed the petition. I now understand the approach that's being taken. So, and that's not to take away from those that did sign the petition. Again, it's been mentioned the need for the remediation of the current pathway down to the stairs and the need for all the studies that are going to have to be done. So I think, Councillor Watt made it very clear that those were questions that I had as well. So again, misinformation that I think that others in the community weren't quite aware of moving forward. So from my perspective, it came out and the opposition was access to the waterfront. I think that the proposal that's going to be moving ahead of us is going to still continue to allow that access to the waterfront. I know I see some people shaking their heads in the crowd saying that that's not the case. Well, it's also not the case that the existing pathway that exists, once it's properly repaired, will also have access to the waterfront beach either, because it has to be moved further to the west, which also doesn't directly access the beach per se. So I know that was one of the other issues that was raised there. So other than that, I just want to say, I know that Councillor Thompson made a few comments earlier, which I very much agree with, and I think that over the last 3 months, this council has heard the community, and we have tried to come up with a compromise that is going to be the best for the community moving forward. So I'm going to leave it at that. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Cassidy.
So are we asking questions or are we summing up our point of view?
Whatever you'd like to do, Councillor Cassidy.
All right. So I guess I have a number of areas which I'm trying to get my thoughts together on. First of all, Councillor Snyder just finished that we have heard from the community, but the community has also heard from us. And one of the things they heard from us was that this property had been endeavored to be sold for 12 years. That's totally and utterly incorrect. It was 2016, and I voted on it to create a lot. 2016 was 8 years ago. So let's not talk about 12 years ago. Thank you very much, because it wasn't. And over the course of the last council term, we were in COVID. Nobody was trying to sell anything in COVID. So let's take away that one. And then we are talking about the fact that these monies are going to be used to purchase the last house on the waterfront. So let's address that. We've never voted on that as a council. Point number 3, if we wanted to purchase that house on the waterfront, there need not be any competing bids. We can simply, what is the word I'm trying to look for? Expropriate the property. There need be no competing bids, and we would expropriate at market value. And that was done before when I was on council. We expropriated a house on the waterfront. They took us to court, and we won. So please, do not believe that there's going to be a competing offer for this property. We can expropriate. Please do not believe that this council necessarily would vote to buy that last property on the waterfront. So let us get started there. So what we have on the property on the waterfront is we have a property, an old house, where the value is in the land. Now, if you go to that site, that land is slowly but surely being eroded away. So we sit there long enough, we'll have even less land to buy. So that's on that one. And so I find it rather, what should we say, I can't actually think of the word on that one, is that we are presumably wanting to buy a property on the waterfront so we can expand that situation. Our waterfront now in Ambleside is not neighborhood property. It is the property of the Lower Mainland. Courtesy of COVID, we have been discovered. You go down there and it is packed, and it's highly unlikely on an average summer's day that you're going to bump into your neighbor. But if you walk along Pasco Road, if you walk, I'm sorry, wrong site, wrong argument. If you walk along Park Lane, you'll bump into your neighbor. You'll bump into your neighbors from 31st, maybe 30th, maybe 29th. It's a neighborhood access to the beach. When that lot was created, there was absolutely no intention to sell off that access to the beach. Even if that access has to be reconfigured, it is still going to be on the west side of the property line. So I was wondering, why do we have such an accommodative buyers here that they are going to create an access point on the east side of the property? And lo and behold, one of the individuals here tonight actually answered that question for me. When those trees are up, there is no view to the west. So they're going to give us the east side. They haven't bothered, or nobody's bothered to consult with the individuals at 2998. No, why bother? Probably because we can't find them. But also, they are going to give us an access point to the least attractive point on their property line, which is the east side, to the neighbor. So we're going to be walking down between two neighbors. You think two neighbors are going to be happy? I don't think so. So on that one, and then I asked Mr. Wong, exactly what is under that pathway on the east side? Is it sewage pipes?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, there is no sewer pipes down that right-of-way. We've asked for a right-of-way to allow for future utilities, but there's currently no pipes down.
So where will those future utilities go? Where will the sewer line go down? The west side of the property, the middle, or the east side of the property?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, that site is, that whole block is very unique in the sense that a lot of the systems there would have to come, well, actually, it goes down to the beach side at access, but there's no way of connecting on the beach side. So that particular lot has to be actually connected on the street side. So it has to be pumped up.
So we will not be building an access point on the east side on top of sewage lines?
That's correct.
No utility lines will we be building on top of?
Well, in future, there could be the possibility, but we reserve the right to do that. Either way, we would have reserved the right either on the west or the east for those utility lines, either way.
Okay, so why are these buyers only prepared to build so far on this access point and leaving the balance to us to resolve?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, they have basically studied the lot from the drop-off point to Park Lane, so they know the lot fairly well, but they have not studied anything below that.
And may I ask why?
At this point, there's no need for them to do it as part of their house.
My understanding was that they actually had people come, the architect or such like, whoever surveyed the property, and they were advised accordingly not to continue because it was going to be such a difficult site from that point forth.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, I'm not aware of anything, discussions of whether that was a difficult site that the architect said not to build there.
Okay, so when we talk about equal, The pathway on the east side is never going to be equal to the pathway on the west side. That's for sure. And may I ask, why is the 29th Street access, why was it closed?
That would be a question for Ms. Kettler.
Thank you. Through to Councillor Cassidy. I'm just going to read some notes, so I put my glasses on. So it was in 2013, and there were concerns about the stability of the slope, and a geotechnical engineer was engaged to undertake some preliminary investigation. And the engineer determined that there were unstable soils on the slope that could result in localized landslide activity. And it was also determined that the bottom of the slope was eroding during high tides and wave action, resulting in a partially undermined scouring of the slope. So to reduce the possibility of a landslide, it was recommended that the erosion protection riprap rock be installed at the toe of the slope and buttress of the undermined soil slope. And this work was completed in 2013. The engineer's preliminary estimate to rebuild the staircase for the slope in 2013 was a minimum cost of $150,000, and they recommended further investigation. That was sort of a high level, and so there was further studies that were needed. So faced with these escalating costs, and given the foreshore could be accessed from 27th, 28th, and Altamont Beach Park, it was decided at the time to decommission the stairs and close off the foreshore at 29th.
So we have no guarantee at this new site that we're not going to encounter exactly the same problem.
No, there's no guarantees, and that's why the studies would have to take place in that
Right.
area.
So now we have a guaranteed access point that's been used for, I don't know how many years, but definitely more than 50, and you're asking the public to give that up in the hope that the new site might be geotechnically stable and might be of a price point that we could afford, and you're asking them to do that before we've had the geotechnical report. Are we not putting the horse before the cart, or after the cart, or wherever the horse is going, but not in the right direction?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, just to clarify, you would have the same problem on the west side. If you once you relocated, there's no guarantees. You wouldn't have the same geotechnical problems on that side.
Okay. Why did you decide this evening to divide off the issues into the access point versus the entirety of the sale situation?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, there was obviously concerns about the notice of disposition in the process. So what we've allowed that to happen is to give you enough time to advertise that notice of disposition, to be fully transparent to the public. And that's the main reason why the two issues have been separated.
Mm-hmm. And when did that notice of disposition go forward?
It doesn't go forward until after the council.
Okay, but you've got a June the 23rd, June, that this was going to be disposed of, correct? When was the notice going up that we were going to join there was a sale of the two?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, the notice of disposition goes out once council approves of the disposition itself, so we can actually put notice in front of the public.
All right, so I'm probably mixing up the both issues at this point in time, but why did we offer all of this exclusively to one buyer and not just close this off and put it out there for multiple opportunities on a larger situation?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, the offer for the additional square footage was offered to whoever viewed the site and asked the questions, obviously, of the site when they had the open houses there and the realtor advertised it as such.
I have more to ask, but I'll leave it there. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Cassidy, may I just pass you something and ask you to maybe correct one of your earlier statements? I can't share it because it was from an in-camera meeting, but I think that might clarify when the property was first offered for sale.
I'm sorry, you're saying this is 2012?
Yes.
Well, I haven't seen that, but how could it have been offered for sale when we took it to court in 2016 when the situation...
No, it was taken to court in 2011.
And Mayor Smith just finished saying that, what was it, 2016, we won the court case.
No, he was incorrect. That's when you moved the motion and Councillor Cameron seconded the motion in public to create 3,000 Park Lane.
All right. Well, I will stand corrected on that for the moment, and which gives you your 12 years. But was this publicly for sale for 12 years? There was notices on the property for 12 years?
It was through the court process.
And could you please further explain
I
that?
can't because it's in camera. I'm sorry.
Well, that's great. It's in camera. So many things are.
Well, that was in 2012, Councillor Cassidy, and they were following the law back then. I'm sorry. And we still are. We still are. Councillor Snyder.
Yeah, just a real quick response to Councillor Cassidy. She talks about expropriating the other property, and she's absolutely correct that there has been no agreement amongst council. There has been no vote on deciding exactly how those funds would be used to buy additional access to the waterfront for the community. But in order to expropriate a property, you do need money. So you can't expropriate if you don't have any funds to do so. And I just wanted to, again, reiterate the fact that there is no guarantee that the current repairs that are going to be required to the existing pathway will pass the engineering inspection either that's going to have to be done, or the ecological, what's the term you use to the study that has to be done on the water? Geotechnical, yes. So there's no guarantees that the existing pathway would pass that as well. So.
Sorry, I'm going to go to Councillor Watt, and then I'll come back to you, Councillor Cassidy. Thank you. Councillor Watt's next. Thank you.
Yeah, I just sort of a question or statement, maybe both. But, you go all around this municipality. We've got homes perched on cliffs. We've got these access points down to the water throughout the entire municipality. I would find it unfathomable that if there is a will, that there wouldn't be a way to build this flight of stairs. I mean, am I correct that this is engineering or, well, staff in general just, making 100% sure, I guess, being afraid to put out that statement, yes, it can be done, because that report hasn't been done. But based on the absolute, feats of I don't know what that you see all over this municipality, I'd be shocked if we can't find a way to do that on either side.
Thank you. Councillor Gambioli.
Okay. So I'm going to try and wrap things up here for me. So just, again, a couple of notes, because, again, the language that's been used in the media, etc., has been confusing. So I just wanted to clarify that, of course, this is not a deal about selling our waterfront. There was a lot going around on social media about West Van is selling our waterfront. Well, we can't sell our waterfront. Right? This is an issue of potentially disposing, I guess you could say, of an access trail to the waterfront. But we're not selling the waterfront. Of course, that's always available to the public. And I've been here since 2011 and been through all the machinations of this issue, as former Mayor Smith pointed out. 90% of the decisions and the work on this project have taken place over those 12 years, including the court cases, et cetera, et cetera. So I wouldn't call it expeditious. We've been accused of being very expeditious with this. But this last decision, I will admit, took a lot of people by surprise. And I'll talk about that in a minute. So last time this was before us in an open meeting, prior to the past 3 months of discussion. It was 3 months ago already. And the discussion and the input and the attempts at finding a solution. At that time, I supported the road closure bylaw. And my decision at that time was related to the increasing costs of maintaining our many district assets into the future. And the fact that there are 2 other beach accesses nearby, both east and west. I still have those concerns. However, a number of things have shifted over the past 3 months. I did not expect the high level of public concern and the compelling arguments. Apparently, many residents are not concerned with the costs of maintaining our many district assets into the future. So I hope to not see any of you at budget time to tell us to reduce our taxes. The proposed statutory right-of-way that is suggested is not the same as the property that is now owned by the district. I agree. I am also concerned that the significantly larger lot will result in a significantly larger house, which we don't need more of in this community. I agree that there is no urgency to sell the lot immediately, especially given better interest rates going forward. And I will admit that we as an organization and councillors should have communicated the process and the options better to the public. So it doesn't happen often. In fact, I don't know that it's ever happened. But tonight I will change my previous decision and I will not agree to close the road allowance.
Thank you. Councillor Cassidy.
Well, I was actually responding to something that Councillor Schneider said, but given the interval between, what was it you said? I'm sorry? Yes, and I wanted to point out that when the Brissenden lands were disposed of, it was taken to the Supreme Court, and the Supreme Court essentially said, or some level of the court, that those monies had to be used to acquire parkland. So we do have monies, some 2 million change, I think 2.57 million, we could put as a down payment on this, and we have the capability, we have the facility to borrow money. We do not have to dispose of land. And please do not grimace, Councillor Schneider, there's nothing wrong with borrowing, particularly as interest rates drop. Both, presumably, it's okay to borrow if you're doing it with an appreciating asset. First of all, when all of this equation started, and the unfortunate thing is we had divided off the two. So we're almost in a way sort of bickering against each other in a way that, because I would have accepted the selling of Park Lane. Begrudgingly, I would have accepted it. But this one is too much. When you go up to Marine Drive and you walk down 30th Street from Marine Drive, that is a well-trodden pathway to get down to this beach access. This is not something that is infrequently used. This is neighborhood, and when I was elected, I ran on neighborhood character. Why should Irwin Drive have 3 or 4 access points to their waterfront, which is delightful, and then you have another street? You close 29th, you build inordinately steep steps to another access point. They're all different aspects of the same street, if you understand what I mean, as far as the steepness and so forth. I do not, and I fervently believe, we do not have the right to take away public access to their beachfront. You're asking this public to accept it with no guarantees of cost and such the like as to this new site. Councillor Watt has said, build it. Okay, anything can be overcome, but at what cost?
Thank you, Councillor Cassidy. Councillor Thompson.
Well, in my closing remarks, I did want to address this sense of precedent that we're setting, regardless of how we go in this decision. And, like in many lots in West Vancouver, this is a unique parcel, and it's a unique situation. And I don't believe we are setting precedent. There's been a number of comments made about 29th, which was, again, a practical decision based on slope stability, safety, etc. That had to go. And the bridge and staircase that goes over the train tracks, that's, we'd all love to see that taking place, but that's not our jurisdiction. That is the railway company. And I go back to really believing that when this came forward as an opportunity, it just seemed like a sensible thing to do for a grossly underutilized parcel of land. The pathway used, and we've come to appreciate that. the public wants to access that beach. And I also think this solution is reasonable, to not take away the access and ask people to go 170 meters further down the road. Yeah, I think I'll leave it at that. But sorry, no, you know what I did? I did actually want to address this concept of sale, and I'm wondering if Mr. Wong can actually walk us through. My understanding is this parcel has been for sale. Can you clarify how long it's been for sale? And I'm asking this because of the sense that we're acting in haste. Well, I mean, there's that, but this parcel was listed back in 2018, 19. In my last term on council, this property was for sale. It wasn't as publicly.
Mr. Wong, can you just set out how the property? It was listed, as I understand it, first by the municipality through some system, and then that didn't generate any interest, and then you recommended we list it on the MLS with a local realtor.
That's correct. Yeah, it was basically listed on what do you call, I guess, a low-cost public system that we would try to reduce our realty fees on that, and then obviously didn't generate anything.
Well, and I think that's what I want the public to understand, because that's something I question too, being on council, and I believe we dealt with the Briston property that way as well. The way the public or the district goes forward and lists land traditionally is very different from market realtors. Am I right? Or can you explain that to the public?
There are obviously different processes that could be followed. We could obviously put it for tender if that's the case, but typically it is put, that's actually one option, and obviously a request for proposals is another option. But typically that's not where a lot of people look for the real estate. It's usually the MLS where you get the most traction.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you. Hearing no further discussion, I would just like to quickly comment that I appreciate the remarks of Mr. Molyneux, who initiated this entire undertaking. I agree with him. I think this is a win for the community. Beach access is preserved, and this is not the night, and I know he'll appreciate it. When it comes back, which I think will be on the 18th, is when I will propose the motion to ensure that the local community has input into the design of the pathway and the construction. And I am completely convinced if we can build stairs successfully 170 meters to the east, we will be able to build stairs in this location. And we have lots of difficult places. Just go out to Garrow Bay and look at the stairs that the park staff did that are phenomenal. And I can't think of a more difficult location than that. So,
and you know I follow every word you say. You use the term if we can build these stairs. Sorry. I want you to guarantee, please, that should this pass tonight, and I have every certainty it will, that this neighborhood is going to be guaranteed that that pathway is going to be built and completed.
Thank you, Councillor Cassidy. Sorry if I left that impression in any way, shape, or form. The motion I am proposing is that the access place, the reason I said if, because it's always up to council. If council passes this motion, this matter will come back, and I will put a motion before council that will ensure that the stairs are built and are completed, and this access is done within 2 years by this council, and that the community, and I would ask Mr. Molyneux to be one of those people, because he initiated this undertaking, and I think he has every right to be pleased with his work if council approves this motion tonight. Councillor Watt, and then Councillor Snyder's called the question.
Just quickly, one of the requirements for me to support this was that we would endeavor to the very best of our ability to have this access built before the completion of the home. That was another thing that was of paramount importance to me. And I will certainly be following that and, hoping that that is absolutely feasible.
Thank you.
So there's minimal interruption.
The question's been called. All those in favor? Contrary? The motion is carried. We'll now move to item number 6, the provincial housing targets. Councillor Cassidy. And are we going to have, is Mr. Bailey making a presentation this evening? Okay. Okay, I've had a request. We'll take a 5-minute recess so members of council who have been sitting since 4 o'clock can take a break.
Yeah, you do. You do. There's quorum.
Okay. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm sorry. Councillor Snyder back and Councillor Watt at the table, please. Thank you. Maybe if there's people down the hall, maybe we could close the door so it's not distracting. Where'd they go? Okay, sorry, Mr. Bailey, and I know you're going to be quick tonight.
Yeah, Mr. Mayor, David Hawkins has a brief presentation, and then we're available to answer questions. So over to you, David.
Okay, let's roll.
Good evening, Your Worship, members of council and members of the public. So this item is in response to provincial housing targets and the associated requirement and deadline for a Year 1 progress report. So to briefly recall, the legislation in question is the Housing Supply Act, passed in 2022, came into effect last fall, and this was the legislation whereby West Vancouver was one of 10 municipalities to be issued 5-year annual housing targets, running from 2024 to 28. Council did receive a 6-month interim report, and moving forward, the legislation requires annual reports, which leads us to this item tonight with the Year 1 report. So to recall what the housing targets Westvan was issued are, Year 1, 220, and you can see on the graph there moving through subsequent years to a total of 1,432, and that's cumulative across those 5 years. In terms of what Council has in front of them, the appendix will be submitted to the province, so they are monitoring this. Our understanding of their process is the first step is whether West Vancouver is on target or any municipality is on target, and the measure they're using is net new, so which that is defined as occupancy permits that are being granted minus what's been demolished on site. Should the target not be met, the ministry moves into a second step. Firstly, looking at municipal efforts. So has West Vancouver done what it can? So, for example, Council has made approvals versus, for example, defeating applications. Council is directing staff to prepare enabling policy versus, for example, not planning for new housing supply. And there is also, to our understanding, a recognition of externalities, so things like construction activity, general market conditions, cost of labour, and whether the real estate market is particularly active. The legislation does build in compliance measures, which is incumbent on staff to advise Council of. So the Minister of Housing will be looking at whether the net new target has been met. So think of that as a moment in time every year. Has the number been achieved? And secondly, the direction. Are we moving in the right direction? Is progress being made towards the target? Should the Minister not be satisfied and deem West Vancouver not to be compliant, they do have the authority to appoint an advisor to review our policies, practices, development decisions, and so on. That could lead to West Vancouver being directed to enact bylaws, amend bylaws, issue permits, and so on. Should that direction or directive not be followed, then the Minister does have the authority to recommend through the Lieutenant Governor in the Assembly that the directions be enforced. So in terms of Year 1 progress, the math is on the screen there. So 99 units have been completed. That means occupancy permits granted. Minus what's been demolished, 41 units, meaning the net new figure for Year 1 is 58. That represents around a quarter of the target of 220. So the 75% deficit is really expressed across different unit sizes as well as all forms of housing tenure. The province, the provincial form does also require us to report on what's been processed during this same year, so October 1st to the end of September this year. You can see the numbers on screen. About 300 units currently under construction with issued building permits, and then 11 issued development permits, which would lead to 45 units, but those are still pending building permits. For the building permits that relate to single-family houses, obviously smaller forms of development, shorter construction times, they could form part of Year 2's progress report. But for most of the units on the screen here, they're unlikely, in staff's opinion, to contribute to Year 2, but they could form part of, at some point during the 5-year reporting period, and really for two reasons. The larger projects, so apartment forms, multifamily takes multiple years to construct, so it's an issue of scale. And then secondly, an issue of process. So where a development permit is required, for example, for environmental reasons or for desired form and character, that still needs to go through a building permit process and construction time. So what I'm describing here is a challenge within the legislative framework that council making a decision on a Monday night, obviously a building doesn't appear on the Tuesday, so there is a lag, is what I'm describing when we look at any individual year. For that reason, although it's not required in the provincial template, staff have provided information to describe what's actually been in stream prior to October 1st, 2023, when the reporting period began, because in fact, if it's in stream earlier, it's actually more likely to be completed at some point during the 5-year horizon. So notably, that includes over 150 units that are currently under construction. And then looking at those in development permit stage, it also includes over 250 where development permits have been issued and around a similar number where they're currently under review. So a lot of numbers on the screen there. If we add them up, it's 781. So these could contribute to future reporting years, either within the 2028 horizon or beyond. But this figure is, it's an estimate at this point. It would require market wanting to complete them, and in some instances is pending council approvals and so on. Finally, in terms of more of a narrative, what is West Vancouver doing to enable housing supply? Something in terms of the direction piece I spoke to, the province looking at what we're undertaking. So on most given council evenings, council is presented with opportunities to expand housing supply through development applications that come to you. And there have also been longer-term, large area initiatives. This council's made significant progress on Cypress Village, notably sitting at third reading with conditions precedent and consideration for adoption coming up. And the Ambleside Local Area Plan is also well in process, having completed the apartment area stream, and we're currently engaging with the community on the commercial stream. Council has also committed, and it's in the OCP, to a future LAP for the Taylor Way area, which will include the Park Royal North site. And finally, just to note that although the context of this presentation is in response to provincial legislation, everything on this slide here is very much council-driven. They're part of our OCP. They will form part of our OCP, and they are opportunities to continue to provide Made in West Vancouver solutions to housing supply. So in conclusion, this is really an information report, and staff are recommending that the Year 1 report be received, published, and submitted to the Minister of Housing as required by the legislation. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Hawkins. Councillor Gambioli, and then I'm going to ask for a motion.
You took it off. I was going to say, could we go back to that graph that you had on the second slide? And at the same time, 58 occupancy permits. Can someone remind us what those 58 even are? I can't even visualize those.
Through your worship, the 58 is the net new, so it's 99 units that have been issued occupancy minus what was demolished on site.
Okay. So can you just, is that single family homes? Is that, what is that? Can you just tell me what the majority of that is? I'm just trying to get my head around that.
Yeah, through your worship to Councillor Gambioli. Yes, it's correct that the majority of units completed are single-family homes, secondary suites. There are 4 townhomes, Evelyn Lot 6, but the majority of what's been completed in this calendar year are smaller scale projects.
Okay, so they're not even ones that have come to us, really, that I can think of.
Through your worship, yes. A challenge, if you like, with the legislation is that anything that is actually completed, so issued occupancy in this year, is really a result of decisions that were or were not made a good few years ago, and the prevailing market conditions since those decisions were made.
Right. So sorry, going back to that chart, shouldn't we...
Sorry.
That's okay, that graph. I like graphs. I'm into graphs. So that's what our targets are supposed to be, according to what the provincial government would like. I think it would be really helpful to see, where we're at. So where we're at is actually 58. Underneath the 220, the number would be 58, correct? I mean, yes. In the future, I think it's worthwhile to graph where we're at. And then given the number of units in, pending, with development permits issued or pending, how are we going to get anywhere near? We're not going to get anywhere near these numbers for the rest of the term of this council, the next 2 years. There's no way we're going to get more than another 25% of the way there. So what's the word on the street about repercussions from the province after 3 years of this?
Through your worship, so there are a lot of numbers, and I recognize it's late in the evening, so I'll be moving quickly. If you were to add everything up, there might be in the order of between 10 and 1,200 units that are currently in stream, just to sum everything up. And the reason I'm giving a range is that some things are in process. We don't know whether council will approve them, whether the applicant may modify the proposal, and so on. Whether that 10 to 1,200 would be built within before 2028, I share your reticence if that's the right characterization. Obviously, things do take time. In terms of the question about word on the street, I think it'd be very speculative of staff to actually seek to respond to that. As I briefly described, there's the two-step ministerial review as we understand it. Have we met the number? Obviously we haven't. But step two, in terms of what West Vancouver is doing, whether there are external factors, we've certainly used the prescribed spaces in the provincial form to document the decisions that have been made, to describe the initiatives that are in process, Cypress Village, Ambleside being the two obvious examples. There's also pre-zone land in Rogers Creek, etc. So we've certainly provided the information. It would be entirely speculative to predict what a provincial response might be to it.
But there's really no way, I mean, I'm looking in the middle of this graph, by September 30th, 2026, that's the end of this term of this council. There's no possible way that we could even be halfway there to that target, according to what's in the pipeline now.
That's probably a realistic assessment, but it is, again, difficult for staff. We do not control things like construction times, applicant interest. As council's aware, there was a 200-plus unit rental project where they walked away as a colloquial expression, but you understand what I'm getting at. So
Sure.
Sorry,
Okay.
just if I could ask, Mr. Hawkins, I didn't actually appreciate that secondary suites would count towards the equation. I didn't realize that.
Through your worship, to your worship, yes, yeah. I mean, the one thing the province has done is through this legislation is define what they mean by a unit, and so it's really the number of units where occupancy has been granted minus what's been demolished. So it has necessitated staff work because obviously when a single family house comes in, there's a difference between needing to check a plan to see whether a kitchen, a bathroom, things that look like a secondary suite have been roughed in versus something that might be a rec room or a virtual golf simulator room. So we are monitoring that.
Would care beds count?
Care beds within a house?
No, within a, if the Baptist came forward would they count?
Yes, I'm sure there's latitude. I don't have the legislation in front of us, but yeah, I would believe that would count.
Thank you, Mr. Hawkins. I appreciate it. It is late. Councillor Cassidy. Oh, sorry. I'm looking at Council. It is late. Councillor Thompson.
I'm getting a bit weary too. Very weary here. But I thought you showed a slide a little further on that showed that within 3 to 5 years we will be more on track with our targets because of what's in queue or projected to come forward. Was I seeing things or dreaming?
No, there's definitely a version of that. I mean, I think what we're saying is this year, the year the province is monitoring, so October last year to the end of September this year, you can see the numbers on stream that projects are being issued. Staff are processing permits with good turnaround times. Council has made approvals. Council has issued development permits, for example, this year. You'll recall them when staff have brought them to you. I think the bigger question mark is when will they be occupied? That is the metric that the province is using to decide whether a target has been met. But as I also described, they are looking at the direction we're moving in, and we have documented the relevant information.
Thanks.
Thank you. Now I'm going to get it right because I meant to say, Councillor Cassidy, would you like to make a motion? Councillor Watt.
Very quick question. We're not unusual, though, are we? Is this not the state of affairs pretty much clear across the country? Obviously, some municipalities are doing better.
Through your worship, I certainly don't want to present a sort of 360-degree perspective, but it's certainly true that building starts, construction in general, are down in most metropolitan areas, not only in the Lower Mainland. I'm not aware of the other municipalities that were issued, the first 10 that were issued housing year targets. I'm not aware where they're at with those. My guess is that we won't be alone.
Yeah, you can lead a horse to water, but you can't make him drink.
Okay, third time lucky. Councillor Cassidy.
I apologize, Mayor Sager. I apologize for the interruption. Just to let you know, one member of the public has signed up to speak to this item, Gary Porosnik.
Mr. Porosnik. Okay, but please make it really quickly this evening. We have quite a few items to get through here, and we do know you're going to be supporting more effort to build more housing. But I won't cut you off.
It's actually trying to understand this. So it seems to me the first scorecard you need to look at is what was committed under the OCP in 2018 and how we did, and that was not reported on. It was only reported on the province, and I understand we're way behind that scorecard too. And so I have been advocating lower cost housing, market housing, to get our kids back, grandkids and workers. And so I've been asking a lot of the developers as to why, and obviously there's a record of turning down proposals, but there's also a record of developers saying they don't think West Van is interested in development. So I just pass that on. I'm sure the planning staff know this, and I've heard their own stories. And I've also heard that it's very expensive to try to get a proposal through here in terms of a lot of work has to be done up front, a lot of money has to be spent, and a lot of time, which is not necessarily like other municipalities. And so I'm just wondering whether if we're serious about meeting the government's requirements, and also I do want to ask whether or not we are required to do an OCP next year again, because I thought there was that one of the requirements was that we had to do a new OCP in 2025. Is that correct?
No, I don't believe so, Mr. Hawkins. You can just tell us from there.
It's a separate bill, so it hasn't been subject to this report. Bill 44 does set expectations about an OCP review by the end of December 2025. However, we are continually reviewing our OCP capacity since we adopted it, so staff will need to report back to council at an appropriate time on what the implications of that would be.
So my main point is that if the 2018 OCP said we're going to do development, I don't think we met the requirements there. Obviously, we're not meeting the government's requirements. Who knows how they set these targets? And then the issue about whether or not developers are going to come with real projects is another issue, and that is the time and expense to get something to approval stage. So is there something being done on that count? I've just gone through 8 weeks of waiting for a building permit approval for a basement suite, which is pretty simple. And I know that you've got staff issues, but it seems to me a capability of process and enough staff to handle this stuff, and of course attitude at the council level to approve these things. I mean, that's a big issue I think that has to be dealt with.
Thank you, Mr. Prozac. You'll be interested in item number 7 on the agenda, because that is something if council passes, we'll show how we are speeding the process up. Councillor Cassidy.
Mr. Mayor, I think it's 3 times you've tried to get me to do this. So given that this is baseball season, the bases are loaded, and I'm about to read the recommendation for a home run.
Thank you.
All right. The recommendation is that the West Vancouver Year 1 Housing Target Progress Report, attached as Appendix A to the October 15, 2024 report from the Community Planner, be received, published on the district's website, and submitted to the BC Minister of Housing as per legislative requirements.
Thank you, Councillor Lambert. Seconded. Any discussion? I'll call a question. All in favor? Contrary carried. Thank you. Item number 7, preliminary development proposal for 1485 Clyde Avenue. Mr. Bailey? Brief presentation. Thank you.
Fine, but we're happy to provide it.
Brief presentation. Thank you.
Good evening, Mayor and Council, members of the public. So I'll just share the presentation. So for consideration tonight is a preliminary development proposal in the Ambleside commercial area for 1485 Clyde Avenue. We're bringing it to Council for direction in advance of the Ambleside local area plan. So on the bottom of the screen there, you can see an aerial image showing the location of the site. It's located on the north side of Clyde Avenue between 14th and 15th Streets with laneway access at the rear of the site. The site's just over 4,000 square feet in size, and it's zoned Ambleside Center 1 zoning, or AC1. And then on the top of the screen there, you can see an image of the existing site, which is a 2-story commercial building. So this slide shows 2 renderings of the proposal. And you can see there, it's for a 3-story mixed-use building with commercial at street level. So the proposal is approximately a floor area ratio or FAR of 2.2. And as I said, it's got commercial at grade, and then also on the second level is also commercial, and then on the top floor is 3 market rental, secured rental units. Also, you can see in the rendering at the top of the screen there's a rooftop communal space that would be there available for tenants in the building. The height of the building is approximately 35 feet, and the applicant has indicated that the site is too small to accommodate underground parking. So what's proposed is 3 surface level spots for vehicles accessed from the lane. So just in terms of relevant official community plan or OCP policies, sites or proposals that are coming within a local area plan boundary are subject to policy 2.1.15 that requires the proposal's contribution to rental, non-market or supportive housing, or advancement of low carbon construction technology, or more generally, provision of public benefits as determined by council. And then with the proposals, inclusion of secured market rental, policy 2.1.17 is also applicable and supports generally securing new purpose-built rental housing in appropriate locations close to transit and amenities. So you can see the site located, the site location rather, indicated on the star on the map there. As I said, it's within the Ambleside local area planning boundary. It's within the commercial area that council and the public's aware that planning is ongoing for that part of the Ambleside LAP process. And then in July 2023, council will recall endorsing the framework that allowed for public consultation for different streams of the LAP work. This map shown here relates to the commercial area within Ambleside, and you can see the site outlined in blue. And for this area of Clyde, the framework identified considering buildings of 3 to 4 stories and floor area ratios of 1.75 to 2. So generally, the proposal at 3 stories is generally consistent with the form for the framework, noting that with the proposed floor area ratio of 2.2, it is slightly above what was included in the framework. And so staff have provided a high-level review of the proposal at this stage, and if council decides that the project should proceed in advance of adoption of the local area plan, there were a few issues for the applicant to review at the next stage. So one of those is related to parking. As I said, the proposal includes 3 vehicle spots for a site like this with this amount of floor area for commercial space and for residential space. Under the AC1 zoning, it would actually require 19 vehicle spaces, so that's a pretty significant reduction. So that's something that we've indicated to the applicant that would be reviewed further at the next stage, with the applicant supplying a transportation and parking study. Connected to that, for the second level currently shown on the plans, is a commercial school use. And so that could have other parking and pickup and drop-off impacts depending on the type of the school that was proposed for that. So that could be reviewed in connection with the parking review. And then, as I said, the proposed density is somewhat higher at 2.2 than what was included in the Ambleside LAP framework. So that's something that if the project proceeded, we'd review through the form of development and through contextual analysis with the site and its surrounding area. And then finally, if council decided that the application should proceed in advance of the LAP, the applicant would be required to host public consultation, and we'd be able to, the applicant would be able to seek public feedback and identify issues and respond to those through the process.
Thanks very much. Councillor Watt.
Thank you. And I'd like to recommend that the preliminary development proposal outlined within the report titled Preliminary Development Proposal for 1485 Clyde Avenue dated October 4th, 2024 from the Assistant Planner be endorsed as meeting the criteria under the Official Community Plan Policy 2.1.15 to proceed to public consultation and consideration of a formal rezoning application prior to adoption of the Ambleside Local Area Plan.
Thank you, Councillor Snyder. Thank you, Councillor Thompson.
Just one question with respect to the parking. 3 stalls, is that dedicated to the residential properties, or could it go either way, commercial or residential?
Through the mayor to Councillor Thompson, that hasn't been, that's not a detail that's been fully worked out at this stage. With parking generally though, the way the parking works, the district doesn't get involved specifically in allocating parking to different uses within the building. We would, typically if it was a building permit or a development permit, just check to make sure they met the overall requirements. But the allocation of the specific spots is actually up to the building operator as far as the breakdown.
Okay, then because it's a mixed use or commercial building, that one stall per household doesn't apply here?
It's a different formula within the AC1
Okay.
zoning for the required parking, which would equate to 19 stalls if based on the commercial floor area and the residential floor area proposed. However, council can consider parking variances, and as I said, that would be reviewed further if council directed the project to proceed, and we would get a transportation and parking study to look at that, and potentially the breakdown of the spots as far as residential commercial use.
Thank you. Just before calling on Councillor Gambioli, we have an existing building that has virtually no parking. It has commercial on the ground floor, it has residential above. I know the area well, and I can tell you the neighbors are going to be thrilled to see this rebuilt. Councillor Gambioli?
So I'm looking at the concept diagrams for the local area plan for this site, and what I see is sort of to the, just to the east, I guess, of this property. I don't know if this is really accurate, but there seems to be a public space, like sort of an access, north-south access, and I just wonder, what happens to that? Like, how does that get created, or what are staff's thought about? Is this part of that, or this is completely separate, and that space would be created as a result of, the other much larger lots nearby?
Through your worship, the main point is that the Ambleside process is ongoing, and that this form of development is generally consistent. It's almost a kind of background type of building, if you like. But in terms of public spaces and breaking up blocks, I think you're referring to something further south. It's between Clyde and Marine, that large frontage is being proposed to break up the massing, unless you're looking at something that I'm not able to call to mind.
It says looking north towards the 1400 block of Marine. Okay, maybe you're right. So I can't really see what's proposed at all for this Clyde. All right, but you said that it's within the zone, and it's proposed as 1.75 to 2 FAR with a height of 3 or 4 stories?
Just to repeat my colleague's words, that's correct. So my comments would be that we're obviously in process, but it's certainly generally consistent with the form of regeneration of low-rise development that we have heard matters in at least a lot of places. Active street uses, the idea of getting residential or any additional rental residential, and then any additional commercial, be that office, wherever this may evolve into becoming away from the street, that these ideas are generally consistent with kind of broader community objectives that have certainly emerged so far.
Right, okay, so there's not really a diagram in here of this area precisely.
I believe, Councillor Gambioli, you're looking at the colour renderings, the artist illustrations of the area. No, I would describe it as a background building. Through the engagement that's ongoing, we're really trying to get, if we can, community feedback, really drawing attention to more signature, more visionary elements of the plan, whereas the predominant condition is being low-rise. The main thing I've heard from the community is that we'd like it to regenerate within low-rise forms. We're really trying to get input on those kind of key signature moves, creating new waterfront spaces, daylighting creeks, and the kinds of development that could deliver that.
Okay.
Thank you. Councillor Cassidy.
So these parking spots, they're going to be ground level, are they?
Yes. Through the mayor to Councillor
At the
Cassidy.
back,
Yes,
all right.
they're access from the
Right. And I do realize going underground increases the expense, obviously. But as we proceed to regentrify or gentrify this area, one of the things I would love to see is the animation of our laneways. And and I do understand it is going to be more expensive to put them underground, but that could potentially be a thought, just so that there's animation of that laneway. If a restaurant, for example, went on the main level, for example, then they would have the opportunity to go out to the back and expand themselves for some form of dining and such the like.
Through the mayor to Councillor Cassidy, this is a fairly preliminary proposal at this stage. It would go through more design development, and that could include considerations of how the laneway was animated. One of the things that would need to be done is responding to the Ambleside streetscape design guidelines, and that includes improvements for both the lane and the frontage in front of the site as well.
Great, thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Lambert.
Thank you. Still on the parking issue, we haven't really talked about this before, and it's sort of a larger potential issue with the Ambleside commercial core area. But in those places where it is difficult or physically impossible to provide the parking in the ratios that the current zoning might demand, is it possible, or could we consider some form of a cash in lieu for parking shortfall? So say in this case where we're providing 3 stalls at grade and there's 16 or 19 that are required currently, and by relaxing that you can provide an incentive for this project, but that's a pretty steep incentive, I think, and if one was able to collect a cash in lieu, put it into a parking reserve fund for a common parking garage or facility, as we've talked about. It's just something to consider, and it just because it's shown up in this thing, and I realize this is preliminary and so on, but just a notion.
Thank you. Good thoughts, Councillor Lambert. Seeing no further discussion, I'm going to call the question. All those in favour? Contrary, the motion is carried. Thank you. Thank you, Ms. McGuire. If we could now move to the bylaws, final reading, Councillor Thompson on the proposed permissive tax exemption bylaw.
I'd like to recommend that the proposed 2025 permissive tax exemption bylaw number 5332, 2024 be adopted.
Is there a seconder? Seconded. Question, Councillor Gambioli.
Just a quick question for staff. There is a list of the organizations that are part of this permissive tax exemption, and I'm just wondering whether staff send out the results of the kind of assessment that the committee has done to all of the organizations, because those, at the bottom of the list, let's say, maybe need to be encouraged to
do better.
Do better.
Thank you, Councillor Gambioli. I think it's a good suggestion, and I think staff will, I'm sure, follow up with that. So we have a mover and a seconder. Councillor Snyder, you seconded the motion. Councillor Thompson, you moved it. And you're...
Call the question.
I'll call the question. All in favour? Contrary, the motion is carried. Proposed modification business bylaw. This is the short-term rental accommodation. Councillor Watt.
I'd like to recommend that third reading of proposed business bylaw number 4455, 2005, amendment bylaw number 5357, 2024 be rescinded.
Thank you, Councillor Lambert. Question, all those in favour? Contrary, carried. Councillor Watt.
Yeah, and I'd like to recommend that proposed business license bylaw number 4455, 2005, amendment bylaw number 5357, 2024 be modified at section 3.1.7 to delegate 6 guests and replace it with 8 guests, and proposed business license bylaw number 4455, 2005, amendment bylaw number 5357, 2024 be read a third time as modified.
Thank you. Thank you. Any discussion? Question, all in favour? Contrary, carried. Councillor, okay, Councillor Cassidy is opposed. Well, that's shocking. Item number 10, Councillor Lambert, please, the proposed, the next step.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Recommend that proposed zoning bylaw number 4662, 2010 Amendment Bylaw Number 5356-2024 be read a second time.
Thank you. Councillor Watt?
Second.
Discussion, question, all in favor? Contrary, carried. Thank you, Councillor Lambert.
And recommend that proposed zoning bylaw number 4662-2010, amendment bylaw number 5356-2024 be read a third time.
Thank you, Councillor Watt. Seconded. Any discussion, question, all in favor? Contrary, carried. Okay, now everything goes to pot. Councillor Snyder.
Great, thank you. I'd like to recommend that the proposed zoning bylaw number 4662, 2010, amendment bylaw number 5347, 2024 be read for a third time.
Thank you. Is there a seconder? Sorry.
I think that was Christine.
Okay.
I'm sorry, I'm sorry.
We're getting a little tired.
Councillor Watt had a point, which I'm sorry, just threw me off there, please.
Yeah, sorry. On the motion that I moved to back up to number 9.
Oh, can we come back to that? We'll, we have a motion on the floor, so we'll have to finish this, and then we'll come back. Okay, that's moved and seconded. I'll call the question. All in favor? Contrary, carried. Thank you. Councillor Snyder.
I'd like to recommend that the proposed zoning bylaw number 4662, 2010, amendment bylaw number 5347, 2024 be read for a third time.
Thank you. Any discussion? Question, all in favor? Contrary, carried. I will come back to your point. If we can can I just go through the rest of this and then I'll come back?
And I'd like to recommend that the proposed zoning bylaw number 4662, 2010, amendment bylaw number 5347, 2024 be adopted.
Thank you. Seconded. All in favor? Contrary, carried. Item number 12, please again, Councillor Snyder.
I'd like to recommend that the proposed zoning bylaw number 4662, 2010, amendment bylaw number 5339, 2024 be read for a second time.
Okay, any discussion? Question, all in favor? Contrary is carried.
And I'd like to recommend that the proposed zoning bylaw number 4662, 2010, amendment bylaw number 5339, 2024 be read for a third time.
And I'll call a question. All in favor? Contrary, carried. Item number 13, proposed fees and charges. Councillor Gambioli, please.
I will recommend that proposed fees and charges bylaw number 5251, 2023, amendment bylaw number 5363, 2024 be adopted.
Thank you. Is there a seconder? Councillor Watt. I'll call the question. All in favor? Contrary, carried. Councillor Gambioli.
And that proposed fees and charges bylaw number 5334, 2024, amendment bylaw number 5364, 2024 be adopted.
Thank you. Is there a seconder? Councillor Watt. Question. All in favor? Contrary, carried. Item number 14, Councillor Snyder.
Yes, I'd like to recommend that the proposed official community plan bylaw number 4985, 2018, amendment bylaw number 5292, 2024 be adopted.
Thank you, Councillor Gambioli. Seconding it. Question. All in favor? Contrary, the motion is carried. Councillor Snyder.
I'd like to recommend that the proposed zoning bylaw number 4662, 2010, amendment bylaw number 5293, 2023 be adopted.
Thank you. Any discussion? Question. All in favor? Contrary, carried. And now we'll go back. Sorry, Councillor.
One more.
Oh, there's one more.
Yep,
I apologize.
I'd like to recommend that the proposed development permit 21-131, which would regulate the form and character of the proposal and require land development controls to address hazardous conditions for developments to steep slopes, site with difficult terrain, be approved.
Thank you. Is there a seconder? Councillor Gambioli. Second. Discussion? Question. All in favor? Contrary, carried. Thank you. Now, Councillor, sorry.
Sleep at the wheel, I will acknowledge that. 6 to 8, I am opposed to 8 guests in a unit. I don't see the need to have
Okay,
multiple.
I'm going to ask
Can we
our
just
corporate
switch my
officer,
vote?
how can we do this?
Good question, Mayor Sager. I will do my best to answer it. I do know that a member of council who votes in favor of with a majority of an item can ask for reconsideration. I also know that the mayor can just request a reconsideration of any vote.
May I ask for a reconsideration?
Sure.
So could I ask someone else to make the motion because Councillor Watt
I apologize.
was asleep at the wheel, as she said.
I was asleep at the wheel.
Fine.
I'm owning it.
Okay, so Councillor Lambert, you kindly seconded the motion. Perhaps you'd be willing to move it. Number 9.
Yeah.
Was it 8?
No.
No, it's
It was number 9.
no, it's number 9.
Okay, the second one, okay. Okay, so recommend that the proposed business license bylaw number 4455, 2005 amendment bylaw number 5357, 2024 be modified at section 3.1.7 to delete 6 guests and replace it with 8 guests, and proposed business license bylaw number 4455, 2005 amendment bylaw number 5357, 2024 be read a third time as modified.
I'll second that.
Okay, and now I'll call a question and you can vote against. Okay, all those in favor, the motion is carried. So now we will go. There is no new business, no consent agenda items, reports from Mayor and Council. And I can tell you that it was a busy weekend, busy Friday. Members of Council, many of us attended the House on Biosphere, which was a great opportunity to meet with other people participating from Sechelt to Whistler. And on the weekend, we attended a Council of Council meeting out in New Westminster. Very informative, I think, particularly for members of Council who might not know as much about the operations of Metro. Anybody else want to jump in? Councillor Watt?
No, I'm just looking and agreeing.
Okay,
I was
there
at
we
all
go.
those
Your
things and I'm
microphone.
happy.
Oh, we've got a lot of red microphones right now.
I didn't know.
We're all...
That's
Okay,
my
and, anybody else? I just have a motion to receive that very brief report. Councillor Cassidy?
Okay. Recommend that the oral reports from the mayor and councillors be received for information.
Seconded. Thank Councillor Snyder. Question, all in favor? Contrary, carried. Are there any members of the public that have any questions or comments they would like to make this evening? Okay, thank you very much. Could I have a motion to adjourn? Seconded. Question, all in favor? Contrary, carried. Thanks very much for sticking with us, everyone. We'll see you November 18th.